Oh, crazy cat. All right. This is just unreal. Can you hear me? I'll wait a little bit until everybody can get in. Ugh, this is ridiculous. This ridiculous animal. Okay, let me tell you what happened. This cat, I don't know how they always do that. They always find a way by touching the keyboard to screw everything up. And I use a USB adapter that allows me to connect my old microphone and mixer to the computer. Well, he touched some key in there that caused Windows, which I'm using on this computer, to not recognize that USB adapter. So, in order to get back online, I'm not that familiar with Windows 11. This computer was given to me. I'm a Linux man. So, I had to evict little Milton. This little monster is now meowing outside the door of my bedroom. I had no choice but to throw him out. I don't know. I got to figure out what he did, but I had to restart the computer. And then for some reason, the USB adapter was not showing up on the device manager. So I moved it to another USB port, restarted again, and then it was now recognizable. And I was able to start YouTube and get back on it. So hopefully, everyone that was here, I see we have Lizzie. Okay, we have somebody new. We have our usual suspects in here, which is good. So anyway, after that little distraction and a loss of audience, I'll be hanging out, see if I can get more people to come in here. But as I was saying before Milton basically threw me offline, I got up this morning to look for some iguanas. Now I couldn't find any iguanas. They were all hiding in the ground. I'll try again later. But yeah, the iguanas have adapted. And it's like anything else, natural selection. The iguanas that didn't go in the ground and got frozen and may have fallen out of the tree and died, they didn't reproduce. But the ones that went in the ground, they did reproduce. And the thing is that Florida never gets cold enough to freeze the ground. So that means the iguanas are not going to go extinct anytime soon. Anyway, well, we see we've got 12 people back. That's good. I guess everybody else will find me and come back. So, all right. So let's see. We have questions. I'm back. Yes, that's good. Welcome back. Milton is such a cute, chaotic kitty, but we love him. Yes, I love him too. But he is a tremendous pain. He starts going with his paws on the screen, and then he sees a little light right over here on the webcam. And then what he does, he plays with it, and then he sees the image like me on the screen, and anything that's moving, the mouse cursor especially, he'll chase that and attack. And but I had to throw him back in the main house. It's not the end of the world. He's got plenty of food in the kitchen. Hopefully he will calm down, and but that's it. I always like to give him the chance. In fact, when I go to sleep, I let him hang out in the room until he bites me. Then I grab him and throw him out into the house. And he'll meow for a while, but eventually he'll find something to do. So he'll be all right. All right, let's see. Little Milton has been out in kitty timeout. Yes. Okay, come back. Welcome back. Yeah. All right. How do you catch iguanas? They're so quick and they won't let anyone close to them. Well, that's true, but if you have a good crossbow and good aim, you can hit them far before they ever see you coming. You can also bait them with tropical fruit. You can throw some fruit outside where they like to hang out and then keep a good distance. When they're over there eating, they don't pay as much attention. When they're sunning themselves on the edge of the canal, they're impossible to catch unless you're in the water. If you have a rowboat and you can shoot them from there, they're going to jump into the water and then you can catch them when they float up. But yeah, they're not easy. Now, in some areas, the iguanas are so numerous that they don't even care. And I've been in areas like, especially around Coral Gables, where you have a lot of rich people that don't eat them. And they just, you can walk like 5 feet up to them before they run away. And a lot of times, what I'll do, I'll go to the ones that they're in the backyard or in the pool. And these houses usually have a fence. The fence is typically like a metal fence, maybe a wooden fence, or even a chain link fence. And if the iguana runs fast enough, they get a little clumsy. Even a chain link fence can stop them. So when they get to the chain link fence, they have to slow down because otherwise they'll just run right into it. They can squeeze their way through, but it's not fast. So what I normally do, I'll grab them by the tail, and then, sometimes their tail will break off like a lizard. But if you grab them close enough to the base of the tail and you kind of pull on them like in a on and off fashion, they'll let go of the fence, and then you got them. Just make sure that your bag is handy because you can grab them by the tail, but they do have teeth and they can bite you. So you got to hold them far enough away. Now I'm pretty tall, so I can keep the iguana mouth away from me. You drop it in the bag, and once you do that, they may squirm around a little bit, but that's about it. Okay, Yaka, greetings from Australia. Greetings from Miami. He's meowing outside the door. Well, he was, but thankfully he stopped. Have you ever tried feeding the iguanas to the alligators? Well, the alligators do eat iguanas, but thankfully there's no alligators around here. Otherwise, the ducks would disappear. Have you ever tried using a fishing line and a hook with a piece of meat to catch iguanas? Well, iguanas don't actually like meat, but I have used a pole with a fishing line in it. And you reach over the back of the iguana when they're sunning themselves and you put it around their neck and then pull it. That's one way you can catch them. It's not 100%, but some of the iguanas are easy to catch because they can't look behind them. They can only look to the side. If you get right behind them, you can usually get them that way. Okay. Lambs, it's a food chain. Good morning, all from Melbourne, Florida. Well, good morning, Father of United Carnivore. I'm glad to see you here until everybody leaves and goes to Mitch's live stream, which, I'm sure that'll happen relatively soon. Okay. Wow. LOL. All right. So anyway, what I went on an iguana hunt this morning. I didn't catch any, but I think a lot of it is just this area. The iguanas have adapted, and I think that if I went further, like Coral Gables or something, I could get them. Peter says, "How do you typically catch ducks?" Well, that's actually pretty easy because ducks are the easiest one to catch. All you got to do is throw some duck food a few times, and pretty soon they'll get to the point where they'll practically eat out of your hand, and that's when you get the net. So what I like to do, I like to lead them to the part of the canal where people don't really see you because I don't want them getting mad at me for taking the ducks away. And then we'll go over there like towards the middle, maybe towards 117th, and then I get my bag. And a lot of times, what I'll do with the ducks, they're kind of difficult because ducks are very, they can really they can cause you a lot of issues because of the way they move around. So what I do, I have special duck bands that I use. And what it is like a big rubber band. And when you grab the duck, you get the net, you get the ducks under the net, and then you get the rubber band and slip it over their head and it holds their wings together. And then you can take the ducks, and I don't grab maybe more than 2 or 3 at a time. You stuff them in the bag, and then you ride home on the bike. And nobody really knows what's in the bag. You bring them home, you put them into the duck pen. Then you go back another time, not to the same group, but to another group of ducks, usually by the bank or something. And you grab a couple of them, you stuff them in the bag. And then once you get a nice group, I like to get like 5 ducks at a time. I try to get one male for 4 females. That way they don't outbreed the females. And I try to get them from like maybe 2 from one group and 2 from a different group. So that way the males, they feel like they've got themselves a nice little selection. And then once they start getting used to each other, they'll pretty much stay around. Now, I have had some of the ducks leave, but I'm far enough away from the canal that they don't recognize their surroundings. But there's other duck flocks that come around. So, and the thing about the ducks is they forget things very quickly. They will definitely be afraid of you for a few days after you've grabbed a couple of the other ducks. But then in a week or so, they don't know the difference. They're bird brains. You keep bringing them duck food, they're addicted to that crap, and they'll come up to you again. The main thing is you don't want to kill the ducks in front of the other ducks because that usually causes them to get a little strange. But if you just grab them and take them away, no big deal. They forget. And the interesting thing is, once in a while, one of the ducks that got away ends up getting caught the next time, and then they get reunited with the rest of their ducky friends. And the interesting thing is, they're not really nice to each other. Sometimes they'll fight with each other. I've had females that were from the same group that had separated, and then I caught them. I brought them together. And next thing you know, they're fighting all the time. And usually, if I get a duck that is really, really aggressive, you know what happens to the duck? It's going to be delicious. Sometimes the females, I usually don't like to eat them because they're more of egg producers. But the problem is, and they're not very big either. Some of these females are only like 8 pounds. That's not a whole lot of meat. But the males, they get real big and meaty and they're really delicious. Duck tastes a lot like beef. I know a lot of people don't understand that, but it does taste like beef and it is really good. And I love delicious duck. There's nothing better than a tasty, big, fat Muscovy duck. Tasty. Now, somebody mentioned duck sauce. I hate that stuff. I think that stuff is nasty. Okay. Don't the ducks make a lot of noise when they're in the bag? No, they do not. Muscovy ducks are very quiet. Now, if you grab them by the tail, a lot of the females will go whack, 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 and they can quack loudly. The male ducks, all they can go is they make like a puffing, hissing sound, and that's about it. But once you stuff the duck in the bag and it's dark, they may squirm around a little bit, but they don't make any noise. In fact, I think a lot of times just covering their head, like if I'm grabbing a duck and it's fighting me, I'll put my hand over its eyes, and then that way, it'll calm down. I've had videos where I'm trying to grab the duck, and they're kind of interesting. Okay, what else do we have here? Hmm. Duck is a delicacy for sure. Yes, it is. LOL. I was really disappointed. I hatched two Muscovy ducklings that were female and didn't get any. Well, you know what? If you lived in South Florida, I could hook you up with all the male ducks you want. There's plenty of ducks here, and I know people. There are people that are so stupid they pay $30 or $40 per duck to have them removed. The worst are these stupid condominiums, because they're usually a bunch of old wackos, and they're so worried about duck poop. They probably think somebody's going to sue them for slipping on duck poop. And a lot of these old people there, they're just half dead. So the thought of a duck coming at them will scare them. Me, I get delighted. If I go somewhere, some places the ducks are so tame, they'll peck at you if you don't feed them. And that's just the best for me because I keep my burlap bag handy. And the first duck that pecks at me, he or she gets stuffed in the bag and goes home with me. So, Ducky may have a pleasant surprise because when the duck comes to my yard, it's like a duck paradise. I have my duck pond and I have predator protection in the duck area, and there's plenty of females for the males, and the females get to lay their eggs and they can raise their little ducklings. They get a great time here for a while. But eventually, now in the wild, they may last a year or two and then they get run over or ripped open by a raccoon or coyote or fox or whatever happens to be there. Even some of the larger birds of prey will attack the ducks. But in my yard, they have only one fate, and it usually involves eating, and then all of a sudden it's lights out when that duck guillotine comes down and off goes the duck head. So, and then the water's already boiling, and the feathers are being pulled out, the duck's being gutted and washed out with a hose and stuffed into my refrigerator. So that's the fate of a duck. And normally I like the duck meat as fresh as possible. I can freeze the duck meat, but I do love having fresh duck. I believe the fresher the meat, the better. I'm not really into aged meats. Okay. Found you again. Good thing, Sandra. You found me. I see I've got 21 people now. I'm so sorry about what Milton did to the keyboard. I don't know how he did it, but it's crazy. All right. Beautiful. Quite for me. All right. How is duck liver? Well, duck liver is actually pretty good. And if you want it to be better, you fatten up your duck, give them a fatty liver, make them unhealthy, and it's almost like butter. And what you have to do, you have to give them tropical fruit. Well, I guess you could give them corn or grains or any of that, but I actually feel bad giving my duck a lot of grains and bread and stuff like that. And I do that just to get rid of it because people give it to me for free. But if I'm fattening up a duck for the table, I'm going to try to use as much organic tropical fruit as I can get. And I will pick it from my yard. I'll pick it from other people I know. I mean, everything from avocados to, whatever. They're just fantastic. And I get the biggest, fattest, most delicious fresh duck. Okay, let's see. Muscovy ducks are less dirty than regular ducks. Yeah, they are, but they do poop a lot. Aaron, do the ducks lay any eggs? Yes, the best eggs. See, the eggs are a bonus. If you feed your ducks a lot of food, they'll lay a lot of eggs. Duck liver is great as pate. Yes, it is. Oh, Papa, duck eggs. Yes, duck eggs. Muscovy are the best eggs. My favorite energy boost is salted duck eggs that I get at the Chinese market. No ingredients but eggs, salt, and water. It is perfect if you need a little something to keep you going. That's a good tip right there. If for any of you that are still doing the snacking thing, eggs are a good one. Okay, let's see. Oh, I've never had any duck eggs. What local stores carry duck eggs in your area, Rick? I don't know because I've never seen duck eggs in the store. I'm sure you'd have to go to Wild Fork or one of those high-end places to get it. All right. Carnival Muscle, Jonathan, present. Well, good to have you here. You're one of my favorite YouTubers, and you are my favorite bodybuilder. Love seeing your Muscovy ducks online. Not many here in England. Well, the climate here is very conducive to Muscovy ducks, but they can survive almost anywhere. Yummy Julie. Yes, they are. Okay, we got somebody. Oh, God, I've never seen you before. Be honest. Do you dye your hair? And I'm going to be honest with you. The answer is no. I do not dye my hair, and I don't want to dye my hair because when I do get gray hair, I'm going to see it as some type of a badge of honor that I've survived this long, that I haven't had a heart attack. You can take a look. I don't dye my hair. I don't put anything on my skin. There's no Botox. See, I can move my eyes. I can move my face. I don't do anything to try to look younger. I don't care. Because I'm like a piece of old machinery. If you've ever seen an old tractor, a bulldozer, a bobcat, or whatever, and the paint is coming off and it's rusty, but it runs good and it does the job. That's what I'm like. I'm like an old '69 Charger that needs to be restored. It's got dents, it's got rust, but it runs as good as the day it was new. That's what I feel I'm like. Trying to be vain like a lot of these guys out there, most of those guys that are vain, they have a terrible internal health. I've met guys like that, and they get their cosmetic surgery. But when it comes to going up and down stairs, I beat them every single time. When it comes to digging a hole, when it comes to lifting heavy objects, I can beat them every time. In fact, some of the guys that I know that are into fitness and they do work out, they're strong in the gym, but when it comes to real world work, sometimes I can actually beat them too. So there's no reason for me to color my hair. All right, we have an honor system where you can go and get some quail eggs in a jar. You pick the kind you want and you leave the money in the jar. They used to have that in the box. They had that here in Miami with fruit and stuff like that. But the problem is with all the migrants that we've had over the last 40 years, they all seem to have a culture of take what you can. And we do have a lot of unscrupulous people. Miami is it tends to attract a lot of these scammer types. And you'll notice a lot of times when you see these young 20 somethings starting a YouTube channel and their stupid motivation and blah, 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 how much money I'm going to make. What is the one location they like to come to? They come here to Miami. They get some overpriced, crappy condo on Brickell or Miami Beach, and then they tell everybody how much money you can make, how much money they're making every day. I made $10,000 a day. I made 100,000 a month, and they usually wear some tank top to show off their body all the time. They put in the gym and inject steroids, and they lie to people and they say, okay, whatever. Now, that where do they make their money from? They make it from the suckers that buy their program and play their game. But that's kind of what I've noticed. All right. Okay, they come back. I gotta tuck. Okay, yeah, there you go. I gotta tuck out Rick. I may come back on. That's okay. I'll be here. I'm sure a lot of people now are going to go to Mitch's live stream because he's a lot more popular than I am. And the thing is, I scheduled this for Saturday morning to try to catch some of the people before they go to his live stream, although I usually have technical issues. But then after the live stream, I'm usually still here. And he has one in the afternoon. So I figured that's the least going to impact him because you can catch his live stream in the afternoon. You're not really going to miss anything. I mean, yeah, there's some information he's going to bring out there. That's fine. But you can always replay. You can always replay mine. I made sure that I enabled the chat this time because I noticed that some people were wanting to refer to the chat. So I figured let me enable that in case you want to ask a question. That's good. All right. Let's see. Bread is horrible for everything. I agree. No one should eat bread. I mean, bread is, look, I tell people this: if you like bread, it's because you haven't enjoyed enough meat. Once you've had meat, you don't want bread. Can you imagine buy a loaf of bread when you can have a T-bone steak? See, people talk about bread, I think about bread and water, like slaves and prisoners and stuff like that. But when you think of steak, you think about rich, enjoyable living. You think about the guy that's got a lot of money and he's enjoying his ribeye steak or his T-bone steak. And there's nothing more delicious than a steak, you know. That's like people that go out on a date and they'll go and they'll have some kind of food that they like. Maybe they spend time with their girlfriend or whatever. But to me, I would rather be by myself with a delicious steak because the steak is completely satisfying now. And again, if you like that stuff, if you like the processed food, that's because you don't know any better. No person that has been exposed to delicious meat is going to want to eat duck food. Now, again, fruits and vegetables, I'm not against. I don't eat them generally. I mean, I will eat fruit from my yard if I have it and I don't have enough meat. But the thing is, it's like a cat. If you put an avocado and a piece of beef in front of a cat, which one is the cat going to take? I've never seen a cat take an avocado. Even a duck, as stupid as they are. You put a piece of fruit and you put a piece of meat, the duck's going to grab the meat immediately. In fact, if you put a cockroach and bread and everything else in front of a duck, he's going to grab the cockroach first because even a duck knows that eating live food. Now, obviously, people, we don't eat bugs. We're not designed to eat bugs. We can't digest that exoskeleton, but a bird can. And even a bird brain. I've done a video, it's somewhere on YouTube where I got a piece of chicken and I got some, I think it was pasta, and I threw it to the ducks. And the first thing they snapped was a chicken. They all went for the chicken, then they hit the pasta. So again, if you're having that problem, it's just because of the way you're trained. Okay, we have 22 people now. That's very good. Let's see. Let's see. Do you rustle snakes as well? Yes, I will eat snakes. I've had rattlesnake, which is the only snake I've ever eaten. I would like to try python, but I haven't seen a python yet. But maybe when I move to a rural area, if I stay in Florida, I'll be able to get a python. I would love to see what it tastes like. Now, the only complaint I have about snakes is that they are predators or carnivores, and I generally don't eat carnivores because I'm afraid of things like heavy metals. We have mercury and lead and other things in the environment here, but to try one or two, I don't think is too bad. I'll give it a try. I do love reptile meat. Reptile meat is between fish and chicken. In fact, iguana is more like fish than chicken, and it's so good. Even if it's just plain boiled iguana with no salt or nothing in it, I enjoy it. I love the taste of reptile meat. It's a delicious white meat. Okay, so let's see. Hi, Jonathan. Now, there we go. I love grays. I'm the last of six to finally get them. See, what Lizzie says is true. If let's say you're a guy that has gray hair, but you have a great body. Well, if you're not skinny like me, I mean, even if you're skinny like me, there's nothing wrong with being skinny. I think that us skinny guys are attractive to some women, maybe some men as well. I don't know. But being thin and flexible and being able to do whatever you need to, being able to work hard is attractive. So if you have gray hair, and let's say that you're a farmer or something, you have a decent physique, you're going to be attractive to women. There's no question about it. And I think that if you're a successful person, let's say you have a lot of money, people are attracted to that just because they have the money. So the gray hair doesn't work against you. But you know what? I kind of like it. All right. Let's see. Okay. I am a 25, what is this? 25-year-old lawyer, and I can't eat my usual diet at work. My colleagues would think I'm insane. I agree. But when I've been in business settings, I will eat with my hands. I don't care what people think because the thing is, I'm getting paid by the main customer and I'm getting paid for performance. Now, obviously, if you're in the legal profession, you're not really producing any tangible items. You're using your personality and your connections to be able to get a result. It's mostly like a mental game. You're trying to it's not just how much law you know, because you could get that from artificial intelligence, but it's a cult of personality. So I see what you mean. But, you could always have a steak, or you could have a mixture of foods, I guess. Maybe add a vegetable or fruit if you can. But the problem is, if you have health issues and you're trying to, let's say, lose weight or beat inflammation, what is more important, your image or your health? And even if you have to sacrifice a little bit of income, I think it's better to be healthy than to be sick. All right, let's see what else we have here. I hate a theft. Yes. I think he's a bit overexposed. I will stay. Oh, well. Bread is a processed food. Yes, it is. And Polish Mike says it's slave food. That is correct. That's the way I've always seen it. I've always, when we went to the buffet, like the Sweetenhouse smorgasbord, I always saw the meat as the real food, and the bread and pasta and all that is like the filler. The vegetables, you're eating some garbage from the garden. Not good. Okay, let's see. I'm having a late night snack pork chop. Well, pork chops are a good choice, I have to admit. Breadsticks after 3 days, I can smell it through in the bag. Well, there you go. Quack it up. Hey, Juliet. Now I'm really not going to eat a duck. Okay, well, that's your choice. Thinks it autocorrect. Okay, I'm on my bed with air conditioning on. That's normally what I'll do. But thankfully, for the last 3 days, I have not had to turn on my air conditioner. It was 47 degrees when I woke up this morning, and I was going to wear a jacket. Actually, I did, but it was a light one. And on the way back home from the canal, I had to take it off because I was getting hot. Now, I notice a lot of people that are in the carnivore space, they say that it makes them cold, but I'm the opposite. I seem to always get hot. Okay, let's see. What do we have? I'm from Australia too. I eat 6 eggs at work and I get called the egg boy. Well, good for you. I think I've got a duck in my garage. Could you come over and take care of it for me? Yeah, of course. I'll grab it for you if you lived in Miami. I have a fan. It's way hotter this year, more scattered rain and storms. Sounds like Miami weather most of the year. It's usually so hot and humid. I wasn't even able to go in my bedroom for weeks because the air conditioner had broken. But now, at this time of the year, I'd be fine. But even when it gets hot, and I can guarantee you in a couple days it'll be 80 degrees Fahrenheit. It's already sunny. Now, for the last 3 days, the sun did not come out. It was overcast. So I think yesterday the highest temperature got to like 58. But it didn't stop me from riding my bike over to the canal looking for iguanas and going to Presidente to look for some chicken. I ended up buying chicken in Presidente because all the chickens were hiding, I guess because of the cold weather. All right, let's see. All right. Be careful. They get mean. Sandra McDonald. Well, okay. Question. Ask yourself a question. Ask myself a question. Rick, why are you such a quack? I don't know. Because I love to eat meat. That's that's just the way I am. I can't resist it. I usually just fast all day in the office and eat one meal when I get home. It's working so far. Hey, that's one way of doing it. That's one way you can avoid the embarrassment of eating meat at work. Okay, I'm in Melbourne. Let's see. Jordan was going to ring me at 3 in the morning. Spider, okay. Rick, what are your thoughts on things like Wi-Fi, 5G, EMFs, etc.? That is a really good question, Rachel Fitzpatrick. I'll tell you, as an electrical engineer, I've done a lot of research in this and I've read a lot of research on it. And I think when it comes to, let's start with EMF. Now, what is EMF? It's electromotive force. This is basically just the effect of electrons going through wires. The side effect of that is magnetism. And we know that relays and transformers and so on work off of that principle. But magnetism is something which is constantly around the earth. So we're going to have magnetic fields everywhere we go. Now, the EMF, definitely the magnetic fields will move. But the interesting thing about where I live, for example, it's an older house. All the electrical wires run through steel conduit. And when I build a house, I do the same thing. I use steel conduit. So the amount of EMF is minimal. When it comes to Wi Fi, I generally don't use Wi Fi. Every device I have is wired. Um, the only problem I've had is that my tablet and phone, they generally would use Wi-Fi by default, but I found ways of using a connector where you can actually, um, it's like an Ethernet adapter that works with USB. There are ways of doing it through USB. Apple devices actually also allow that. You can communicate by USB. I have a Wi-Fi adapter, Wi-Fi bridge in my living room that I can use when people come over, but it's only on during the day. My electronics, internet and everything turns off when you have, let's say, about midnight. I have a mechanical timer. So all my technology turns off at midnight. So the only thing I'm going to have on is going to be just the electrical wiring in the house. And the magnetic fields, I don't think are a threat, especially to us, because even at very high frequencies, there's only so much it's not ionizing. It's not going to cause cancer. And as far as I know a lot of people that use cell phones, they don't get cancer. But the reason I don't use cell phones is not because of that. It's because I don't like the idea of being tracked everywhere you go. And the very nature of a cell phone, you have to be tracked in order for it to work. If you're going to use a cell phone, and to be able to be reached, the phone has to know where you are. Phones also, since the early 2000s, have GPS data, so they could basically track where you are. Does that mean I would never use a cell phone? That is not correct. I do have a cell phone with no cell service that I use as a camera, and I actually have installed a software on there that allows me to track myself when I ride my bike. And I don't care if Big Brother sees where I go on my bike. But when I'm driving, I generally don't carry the cell phone with me. And if I do carry it, I use the GoPro camera, which a friend of mine gave me. So I try to keep myself where I'm not easy to track. Now, when it comes to the other things, let's say, um, what else do we have here? EMFs. Well, the other thing too, 5G has just been installed in my neighborhood. I actually made videos about that. There's a company called Crown Castle that they put up these 5G towers, and they were using a company called Bortec. I talked to the guys over there that were running the fiber optic that goes to it. Now the 5G antennas have been installed, and I've set up. I have frequency, um, I have frequency counters that I can detect. I set up antennas around here to detect the 5G. The 5G is coming into my area. It does go into the yard, but it does not penetrate my house. And I think part of it is because the walls in this house, they're gypsum plaster. And there's also, in the addition that I built, there is metal mesh. And because of 5G's high frequency, most of it is attenuated. And there goes my phone again. Is attenuated by the, what do you call it? The metal. Let me disconnect this thing. Hold on. I keep forgetting to do that. Okay. I went ahead and I disconnected the 25 pair cable. In fact, I need to make a video on that as well. I'm going to replace some of the connectors on my phone, and I was going to make a switch where I could turn it off. Now, there is a dispute that's going on. There's this whole idea of being grounded, and I do walk around barefoot a lot. I've done tests on that. That theory has been around for decades. Back in the 1990s, there was this theory that being grounded would somehow benefit you. And I've been able to use an oscilloscope. If you're not familiar with that is, I'm going to make a video on that as well. I have a lot of technical background, just from doing these jobs. And I was in networking for many years, and therefore, I just kind of got used to it. Now, I have a reputation for being, people say that I'm some kind of Amish or Mennonite because of the way that I dress, the way that I look, but I say, how can that be? I don't have any facial hair. If I was to grow facial hair, they would think that I was one of the Amish or Mennonites because of the way that I am. I don't wear a hat. I don't like hats. but I do wear this type of clothing. I have my wardrobe undershirt on the bottom, which is cotton or hemp. This one, I don't know if it's cotton or hemp, but it's one of those natural fibers. And I tend to wear only cotton clothes, like my pants and so on. I don't wear anything that is polyester, so I'm not really a 70s kind of guy. But hey, what can you do? All right. I've never been in Melbourne, okay? I absolutely hate heat and humidity. I don't know how you cope in Miami. I hate it as well. That's one of the reasons I want to move out. But what I do, I try to take air conditioning breaks. If I'm working outside and that's not possible, then I have to drink lots of water, lots of cold water. But I do look forward to my lunch, which is usually a steak. When I'm working and I'm doing hard work, I never skimp on the food. I don't waste my time with the ground beef or the chicken or anything. I go straight for the steak. So I always try to keep plenty of steak in the freezer. And I'm going to have a delicious T-bone. I need to have 2 pounds of meat when I work, which the guys I work with can't understand it. How in the world can you put down 2 pounds of meat and then dig a ditch? Well, my body somehow is able to process that meat. If I was to eat the duck food that they eat, I would probably get diarrhea. So that's not good. Okay, let's see. I say your shirt is Richie Cunningham. Yes, it is. And I was called that a lot in high school because before that, I tried to look as much as I could like other kids. But when I went into the carnivore diet, I became extremely rebellious. And I just sort of like rebelled against everything I didn't like. In the 1980s, there was that whole yuppie thing going on. And I rebelled against that. So I thought I'm going to go back to the 50s. And this shirt is actually from the 1990s. It was something I got cheap because it's so ugly in color. And I found it when I was cleaning out my drawers. I found other shirts when I was cleaning my drawers. I even found the shirts that I had to wear in PE in junior high. And I look at how small I was. Now, remember, that was the summer I started the carnivore diet. So the amount that I grew from there is shocking because there's no way I could put those things on now. I don't think I could even get practically over my head without it splitting in half. All right, let's see. What else do we have? Okay. Why do people live in flood zones in Florida? Well, I wonder that too. The problem with Florida, especially Miami, is that it's really just a race to see who can outshow the other person. And what happened was since the beginning of development in Florida, this was never designed to be a sustainable place to live. It was designed to be a show place for the wealthy. So people that made their money in manufacturing or Wall Street or whatever, they came to Florida and they built these outrageous mansions. And what they wanted to do, they wanted to have their yacht. And remember, at the time there were no aircraft. So the only thing they could do was build along rivers, canals, and along the coastline. And then they would have their boats. A lot of times they would have to build on the bay or somewhere where you could have a deep enough draft in the ocean because you couldn't build along the mangroves because you just run your ship aground. And so, in order to do that, Florida's pretty flat. So, if you want to be near a body of water, you have to be in low land. And you can be as low as 1 or 2 feet above sea level. So, they would build just far back enough where they didn't have to be flooded out by the tide, and that was it. And this has gone on even to this day. Anything that's close to the ocean or close to any water is extremely expensive. And you'll see these wealthy people are constantly building and rebuilding, and they have bigger and bigger yachts. They actually built islands out there in Biscayne Bay so that the rich people could show off how much money they have. And they're connected by little bridges. You have Palm Island, Hibiscus Island, and so on, Star Island. And if you were to look back in time, you see like when they had the Ethiopian Zion Coptic Church, which was basically a front for smuggling in drugs like marijuana. They lived in a house which they said at the time was worth $200,000, which was considered a lot of money. But because of the Federal Reserve's incessant inflation, $200,000 won't even buy you a crappy condo that you could buy for $10,000 back then. Those properties over there start at 20 million and go up from there. You have idiots that just keep coming, and you have these super rich people. Look at Jeff Bezos, for example. As you know, I don't buy from Amazon because I don't like the way they treat their workers. I've known several people that work at Amazon, and I find them reprehensible. That man is sick. that Jeff Bezos. Now, I don't even know if he runs Amazon anymore, but even if he doesn't, he's still making money off all that stock that he sold. And I don't like having these wealthy people around because I think that they ruin the area. But again, if you buy from Amazon, that's fine. I refuse to deal with them. But that people, they live there, and the other reason they live there is actually pretty simple, because it doesn't matter. If you're rich and you build a home and it gets wiped out by a hurricane, it doesn't matter. You can build another one. To rich people, homes are disposable. Once they're 10, 20 years old, they're considered garbage. They throw them out, build another one. So instead of having to pay for demolition, you can just let the hurricane do it for you. It gets demolished, it's worth more money. And a lot of them have insurance or they own insurance companies. So it's not going to cost them anything. Plus, even if you don't have insurance, if you're making billions and billions of dollars a year, can you imagine the tax write off when your house gets wiped out by a hurricane and then you have to rebuild? So they got it all figured out. They don't care. Now, if the average person lives in a place like that, they're a total idiot, because anybody that lives in a flood area that doesn't have a lot of money, like someone like me living in a flood area, would be stupid, because you get wiped out and your insurance company says, "Oh, I'm not going to pay for it," and you're screwed. Now you're living in your car on your flooded out lot, which is not very pleasant. And the really dumb people buy condos, because with a condo, you own absolutely nothing. You don't even own the land you sit on. You own shares in what's basically a corporation. And at any time, they can just let the place get run down, call up the county. Hey, there's a crack in the column. Oh, everybody has to leave. You have 24 hours to leave. And that's it. And you're thrown out, and they'll just sell the place to a developer, give you a tiny little bit of money, and you're screwed. You lose everything. So that's the worst way to live. It's better to live in a shack. Oh, and if you're one of those people that was stupid enough to buy a trailer, that's even dumber, because if you have to rent the land that it sits on, it's only a matter of time before they sell to a developer, take a big kickback, and throw you out on the street. So again, I don't know why anybody would want to live in this place in the first place. I was born here, so I didn't choose where to live, but when I do move, I will choose where to live. All right, let's see. Fasting is easy when you have a busy day. That's correct. You love to be yourself, Rick. Best way to live life. I agree, 100%. Greetings from Tampa Bay. United Carnivores back. No, just caught tail scurrying under my. Okay, interesting. Rick, it's obvious you're very well spoken and articulate. Great stuff. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I think I am. I think that compared to a lot of the YouTubers, I actually do better, because a lot of the YouTubers that I watch, if you'll look at their videos, you'll see that they're constantly edited. You have all the jump cuts. And if you've ever seen them try to speak on their own, they're reading a teleprompter, and a lot of times they go, oh, yes. And what really bothers me is they say, right, okay. Like, no, I don't want to hear this anymore. I'm sick and tired of it. Or what's the other one they always say? I can't remember now. They always say something. It's like they don't believe what they're saying, so they have to keep asking you for confirmation. I don't. That bothers me. All right, let's see. Okay. Question from United Carnivore: are you able to make the meetup for Melbourne? Um, no, I'm not. January 28th, I can't do it, and I'll tell you why. Um, my vehicle is my van. It would never make it to Melbourne. I'd be lucky to make it to West Palm Beach. It works fine for short trips, but the transmission has an internal leak, and once it heats up, it won't shift out of second gear. That's not possible. Um, hopefully soon, I'll get an engine for my truck. Now, my friend that was supposed to get it for me is up in North Florida. They got snowed out. They have all kinds of problems. He hasn't. I don't know when he's coming down to Miami, but when he does, and I put the engine in my truck, I could use that. And then that'll give me the freedom to take the transmission out of my van. I'm going to try to make a video on how I fix a transmission, because a lot of people don't know that I can fix an automatic transmission. I have people that don't believe that I've ever worked on an automatic transmission. But the reality is I have. I've never made a video about it. I never thought about doing it. But I'm going to do it. I know what's wrong with it. That's the reason I've been able to drive it. And like I said, I drive the van just for work. And sometimes it just won't go. If it's hot and I try to put it in reverse, it won't go. So I have to push it. And sometimes what I have to do is just pour water on the transmission and wait until it cools off, and then I can go home. So that's what I'm dealing with. So I'm not going to be able to make that, but what can I do? All right, let's see. All right. I hope you have had a great week. Rick, how's that monster Milton? He's great. He was on earlier. He knocked off my sound. I had to lock him in the house. Okay. Do you think anti-gravity would involve a form of magnetic propulsion if it exists at all? I've been worried. I've been trying to figure this out for decades, how gravity works. You can counteract gravity with magnetism, but I don't think they're related. And I really don't know if anyone has been able to determine what it is. But if anyone is able to figure out what gravity is, you could be the richest person on earth instantly, because if you could cancel gravity, well, let's say about like all these people that don't want their house. It's like instead of paying for a demolition contractor, you just anti-gravity the whole building, float it up in the air. I don't know what you do about the FAA, they'd be a problem. But if you could find a way to do that, you can move these items. You could also use it for research. I don't think that we are smart enough as humans to figure this out yet, but maybe if they used artificial intelligence and they use a combination of quantum computing, there may be a way to do it. But that may be something that God Himself would have to reveal if He ever decided to. But who knows? But that's an interesting thing. The other thing about anti gravity is, imagine if you were able to make something instead of an aircraft. An aircraft has to use air pressure to raise it up, which takes a lot of energy. But anti-gravity, it would probably require less energy, and you would be able to travel. Now, I wouldn't want to try that in Miami because the way people drive on the ground, can you imagine if that was happening in 3 dimensions? It would be pretty bad. And if you look at mosquitoes or flies or whatever flying in a cloud, they never seem to hit each other. But if these were Miami drivers, they'd crash into each other all the time. That would have to be some type of AI generated system. And again, it's a great possibility, but when you think about entropy and the way that things degrade, I can only imagine that system turning into total chaos in no time. And that's assuming that no one tries malicious. Because if the system continues the way it is, where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, eventually you're going to have somebody that's going to get angry enough and is going to want to break the whole system. And they could cause a catastrophic failure. So I don't know. That may be a little bit on the scary side. Can you imagine if you could use anti-gravity and you didn't like Jeff Bezos or somebody like that, and you could make his house float up into space? That would be pretty funny, I have to admit. Use an anti-gravity system and just cause these rich people to float up into the air. Just go and make all of Star Island or Palm Island just float up into the air, into space, and then come back to the earth and burn up. That would be, I hate to say it, but I would love to see that. I don't know. That's just not right, but it would be kind of funny. All right, let's see. I have my location on my phone. I don't know if that makes a difference. Doesn't matter. If you use your phone, you got to be willing to be tracked. Rick is like a duck, hard to track. That's true. Okay. I don't know. There's a meetup in Melbourne. That would be amazing. Yeah. If you look at Mitch, I don't know his last name, but he calls himself Old Guy Carnivore. He always has a meetup. He lives in Melbourne, so he has the meetups around him. If you happen to live in the area, it'd be nice to drop in, I think. So that would be good. You've got Peter that lives nearby there. There's a couple other people that live near there, but I don't live near there. Melbourne is a couple hours away from me or more. And it's not, I can't make it there. I just cannot make it there. All right. Hi, my friend. Okay. Very interesting. Nice to see you again. A 60s, 80s style ringtone. I dig that shirt. Well, thank you. Thank you for answering my questions, Rick. Well, that's what I'm here for. That's why I have the live stream. Otherwise, I would just make a video and post it. Steak is best. Yes, it is. I thought brisket. I bought brisket and beef cheeks this week. Hey, that sounds good. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? Hmm. I can't wait for autumn one more month. Well, that's good. Get a relief from that heat. Okay. The 90s were great for chill for colored clothes instead of grays. Yeah. The problem with today, everything's black, white, and gray. That's what I say. It's like they buy houses in this neighborhood. The first thing to do is paint over the rocks and the bricks and stucco over everything, rip out all the old wood and put in this crappy, IKEA looking garbage. They have this ugly furniture that has like white cloth on it. It's pathetic. It's depressing. I would rather go back into a 50s house with the chrome and metal and the wood and all the other good stuff, the ceiling tiles with holes, the light fixtures that look like spaceships. That's what I like. The bright colors. My room here is old, hasn't been painted since 70s. They're still yellow and green, although it's all termite eaten and deteriorated, but it's bright and it's interesting, and that's what I like. I hate this so-called modern crap. Now, I love modern architecture, but mid-century modern. And if you remember all the shopping centers we used to have, they had bright neon signs, colors, they had stone, brick, all that good stuff. Now they're just white, gray, and black. Even the cars are white, gray, and black. It's pathetic. There's no chrome, there's no color, there's nothing. It's garbage. Hate it. I'll be glad when that changes. All right, let's see what else we got. Don't die question. Do you have any words of wisdom for making wrong choices in life and having regrets? Yeah, I can tell you one of the regrets that I have. I have a regret that I never realized that my heart attack diet was actually a healthy diet. And I'm going to have to make a video about how I had to deal with my parents and other people that are no longer with us that had to suffer needlessly. I think my biggest problem as a kid was listening to what people told me and believing it. But with time, I realized that everybody has their own motives. And when somebody comes at you with some ideas or advice, you have to realize that they're doing it most of the time because they believe something that may or may not be true is either beneficial or is going to enrich them. And I think that's the biggest thing. My wrong choices, I really don't think I've made that many. Um, I've been in business twice with people that I know, and I learned my lesson. Don't go into business with other people because even though it may work out at first, when the money comes in, people change. And when times get tough, people become their true colors come out. So hopefully the next time I do it, it'll be just me. And it's very important, I think, in the business world that you have one leader of the company and then everybody else works with you. Ideally, it would be nice to have independent companies work with each other. And then that way, when a company no longer meets your needs, you could switch to another one. So that's what it is. And of course, I regret that I didn't throw money in the stock market like I did in the past because when 2008 came and the Federal Reserve printed money to bail everybody out, I said that was enough. I'm not going to do it anymore. So I haven't put any money in the market since 2008. If I would have made a lot of money. But then again, it is possible the whole thing could have collapsed. So I don't know. But that's pretty much the only regret I have. All right. Rebellious and deliberately obtuse. Yeah, I don't like to share everything. I share a lot, but not everything. If you ever left America, Rick, which country would you move to? Well, it depends on what language I could speak. I would have to be able to learn the language in the country. I guess since I speak some Spanish, it would have to be a Spanish country. I don't know. Probably something like Argentina, a place where you have some land, you have a meat based culture, and it's not quite as ghetto as some countries. That might be a possibility. Or somewhere in the north, I don't know. I don't know if I could learn any of those Nordic languages, but you have like Sweden or maybe Norway. I don't know. Those people are generally not that friendly. I would think it'd probably be somewhere in South America. I would try to look for a place that wasn't hot all the time. So probably Argentina. And that would be a possibility. But I don't think I'm going to be leaving this country because I think I'll be having a heart attack before I have to worry about going anywhere else. What is the Federal Reserve? What is its history? Oh, that could turn into a whole conversation right there. Let me just give you a little summary. The Federal Reserve is the central bank of the United States, and it was established to back up the banking system. If you understand how money works, the money in the US and most of the world is not backed by anything. It's not backed by gold, it's not backed by silver. It's just backed by the full faith and credit of the system that issues it. So, in order for the parasite class, the super wealthy, to get wealth, they have to be able to extract from the productive people. And you have to realize that all of us at one time in our life were parasites until we became productive. When we were born, we were parasites. We produced nothing and we needed our parents to take care of us. Now, the thing is, the reason they took care of us, hopefully, is because they loved us. And children are actually a very beneficial investment. So it's like anything else. You may have to sacrifice for a period of time to allow your children to grow. And if you take care of them properly, they become an asset. Now, if you have a farm, having lots of children is a good thing because you get labor to help with your farm. Living in a city, it's not as good. But still, the banking system has to continue to increase the money supply because every new human being that's born is going to be more people that need to use money. So the money supply can't be static. This is one of the reasons why Bitcoin will fail. Bitcoin can never be a money supply because it is a limited amount. And it will become more and more valuable until one day it's replaced by something else and then becomes worthless. So, with the banking system, they have to be able to create credit as needed. Now, ideally, you would create the money exactly the same rate that your productive economy increased. So, as the amount of the population grew, the money supply would grow with it. That would be stable prices. The problem is the temptation to make more money than is needed, and that's financed by the banking system. So, whenever they create a mortgage or they do a car loan or whatever, they create the money out of basically nothing. They use a system called fractional reserve lending. Now, that system is basically you're creating money that doesn't exist, but people put money in the bank assuming that they have a deposit they can withdraw. But the bank doesn't keep that money. They mix that with newly created money to invest. They create what they call so called assets. So if everybody went to the bank and said, I need my money now, they wouldn't have it. Most banks only have maybe $50,000 on hand. So what they have to do, they have to go into the system and get more money. Most of the money they invest is in government debt, such as bonds. And what do they do? Well, they can't just give you the bond. I mean, you can't spend that. So they have to go to a central bank, which is called the Federal Reserve. And at any time when the banks need more currency, the Federal Reserve can just create it out of nothing. And the US Mint prints the money. But most of the time, people don't use the money, they just need the bank credit. So if you go to the bank and let's say you deposit $100,000 and you're writing checks, there's no physical cash coming out. The only physical cash is when you go to the bank and say, I need $1,000, I'm going to buy a car or I'm going to do whatever. But most of the time it's credit money. So the Federal Reserve is there to create that credit. They can create it overnight, which is what they call their discount window, or they have the overnight rate, which is the one they normally set, or they can buy bonds, debt, through something called quantitative easing or QE. And that's basically just money made out of nothing. So they go there and say, well, the bank doesn't have any money, we're going to buy your bonds. So they'll buy all their long bonds. And by the way, you have bills and bonds. Anything, I think it's less than a couple of years or whatever it is a bill, and anything longer than that is a bond. Bond meaning, you're kind of stuck with it. But it's a very complicated process. You can look up many videos. There was a book that I read years ago. I think it was called The Creature from Jekyll Island by Edward Griffin, and it explains the Federal Reserve. There's just hundreds, thousands of videos about the Federal Reserve. I don't want to talk about it all morning because my mouth doesn't stop, but I just wanted to give you that. But it's a central bank, and that's what it is. It's just there to keep the system from collapsing. So every time that they screw up and they have too much debt and corruption and everything, the Federal Reserve runs in there to bail it out. And this prevents the market from crashing. Now, in the real world, the stock market would be like a flea market. It would be based on what the company is worth. What can it produce? How many assets does it have? But in the world we're in now, it's all based on easy money from the Fed. So all they care now about is interest rates and the amount of money that's available in the market. And that's why every time the Federal Reserve chairman, well, he used to be Bernanke, that was a guy that really screwed things up. Before that, it was Easy Al Greenspan. Um, and then after Bernanke, I think it was Janet Yellen, the Dutch boy lady. And then the most recent one that Trump appointed back then was Jerome Powell. And I call him Pigeon Powell because he's like what they call a dove. There's the hawk, which is very tight with the money, and the dove, which just throws money all over the place. So Pigeon Powell is there. And later this year, they're going to issue another 20 trillion of QE to keep the market from crashing. So just don't expect inflation to go away. All right, let's see. Okay, we got a lot of comments. We got 30 people. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm really happy. Here's a good question. Lamb says, which Linux distro is the best in your opinion? Well, best is a relative term. I use two Linux distros. I use Linux Mint and I use Ubuntu. The only reason I use Ubuntu is because it is very common. And when somebody comes over to my house and they ask about Linux, I tell them to install that. I think the company that issues that is Canonical. All Linux distros are open source, but they have add ons. And one of the things about Linux that I think a lot of people get frustrated with is the command line interface. So when you want to install, there's just so many different commands you have to know. I set up a database of commands so I can get an idea. But the thing about Linux, if you don't mind the command line interface, it is the most adaptable operating system on the earth. It is also the only operating system that can run on hardware that you pick from the dump, like I do. Now, this computer I'm using now has Windows 11 because my friend gave it to me with Windows 11. But you can see that it has to work really hard. When you switch to a Linux distro, it works less. Now, if you were to use something like Gentoo Linux, which is just completely command line configurable, you could customize it to run on very minimal hardware. Linux can also run on tiny devices like the Raspberry Pi, which is basically a microcontroller based computer. Linux can also run, it runs my phone system. My phone system runs on CentOS, which is the open source version of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And that thing's been running for years. In fact, I did have to rebuild it when I had some motherboard problems due to humidity. It used to be in the back room, which has no air conditioning, but I moved it to the living room, which is air conditioned, and it's still running. It's still running. Oh, it's a new version, but it's still running the Red Hat CentOS. I don't recommend any of the Red Hat products because they tend to be more geared toward the commercial environment, and they like to charge for everything. But you can do it. I mean, you can run the open source version. But for the new user, I recommend Linux Mint or Ubuntu because they are the easiest to understand. And then once you get familiar with the command line interface, you can use any of the other Linux. There's Arch Linux. I mean, I started using Linux in 1998. So, and I think I still have my original red hat that I actually bought from the computer store. I even have some Windows 3.1 distributions over there. But yeah, that's what I use. But I use Linux because it'll run on pretty much crappy hardware. All right, let's see. Nothing like being authentic. Well, that's me. I lost my mobile home because I lived on Sheelot. See, when you have a mobile home, there's nothing wrong with living in a trailer. And I know people talk about trailer park trash, but a good friend of mine lives in a trailer, but he owns a lot. You can't really own land in the US, you can rent it from the government, you have to pay a tax every year. But technically, if your name is on the deed to the land, you're in better shape. Never, ever, ever buy a mobile home unless you get it really cheap or you realize that it's going to be sold to a developer. Now, if you live in the middle of nowhere in a mobile home park, it's very unlikely they're going to develop it because they make a lot of money off of you. But if you're here in Miami and you start seeing condos and high density housing, realize your days are numbered. And it's time to spiffy up your mobile home and sell it. Because even if the management says they're not going to develop it, they are going to develop it. It's only a matter of time. And whatever contracts you have, they could care less because all these developers have their own attorneys and they can tie it up in court for years, longer than you ever could, because they know that people who live in mobile homes are poor people and they can take advantage of them. They're not going to do anything. It's not like these people in the mobile homes are going to go to the home of the people who own this company and burn their house to the ground. They're not going to do that. These people don't know where they live. They wouldn't have the slightest idea how to attack them. They're not going to go short their stock or play games with the market. No, they're not going to do that. So they're an easy target. But yeah, I wouldn't do that. If you live in a mobile home, get your own lot. What you like most about Florida? I like the plants and the wildlife. I don't like the weather that much, but I love the tropical plants. You see my yard, there's banana plants, there's palm trees, you have lizards, ducks, all the good stuff. There's a lot of life out there. I love the Everglades. You go there and it's like one big swamp, and I love swamp living. That's what I like. I don't like deserts, but I do like the swamp. Mosquitoes don't bother me, they don't really bite me. So that's fine. I'm not worrying about that. But yeah, I like that. Plus, I like the fact that a lot of people hate that area, although there are a lot of tourists going on airboat tours. So I don't know. A lot of Europeans seem to go there. I'm never scripted when I make videos for my channel. I'm the same way. Rick, how are the ducks going? Well, they're coming back. They are awesome. I love having my ducks and seeing their little tails wag and beg for food. They're so cute. I love my duckies. Okay. I hope you get your engine soon. Yeah, me too. I'm sick and tired of having to ride a bike everywhere. That's terrible. Anti-gravity question. Read the book Imminent. I'll have to check that out. It would be like Doctor Who if we had no. Well, that's it. Anti-gravity. You get that right. The wealth gap is getting larger, and again, that's because of the Federal Reserve and other central bankers. Polish Mike. Speaking of gravity, I'm always amazed how some animals defy the gravity, especially mountain goats. Well, that's true. They don't defy gravity, but they sure know how to work within it, and that is kind of interesting. Goats can go almost anywhere. Even cats sometimes they seem to defy gravity. Annabelle, I saw my carnivore doctor on Wednesday. I guess it was a mini carnivore convention. Well, that's good. I wish they had carnivore doctors here. I haven't been to a doctor since 1996. Wait, is there two places called the same? There's no character, Rick. There's no individuality. Well, that's the modern way. That's corporatism. And I want to make a video on that as well. Because what I noticed starting in the 1980s with the whole yuppie movement is when the corporatism started. And a good example of that would be Sears. Sears, every Sears store used to be unique. And they were outrageously nice. And then by the 1990s, they were all the same. And look at what happened to them. They failed because corporatism, it starts off with that look. Look at what's happening to McDonald's. McDonald's used to be a very interesting place with its golden arches and outdoor seating, and now look at it. It's a box. It's garbage. All these restaurants are all the same. It's like the Arby's. Arby's used to have that covered wagon looking place because they start out with individual people with individual ideas. Burger King is another example. They get bought up by corporations, and then the corporate mentality comes in and it's corner cutting. So you take a business that's successful, and then you cut the corners until you put it out of business. It's wealth extraction. That's all it is. The only place here that hasn't changed is called Frankie's Pizza. It's down the street, and it's a little box, but it's the 50s. They even have the original sign that they rebuilt. They have a get together, I think, around Valentine's Day. They give out free food or whatever. Now it's a pizza place, but they do have meatballs, and I will eat those. I'll go there and check it out. I love that little place, even though I don't eat pizza. So again, it doesn't matter. Everything else has changed. The bowling alley's still there, Bird Bowl, but it's changed so much. They've turned it into mostly a shopping center, and they got rid of all the character. They used to have a big neon robot sign. Everything was designed to attract you. Now it's basically corporatism. It's designed to disappear into the corporate culture. It's just a matter of wealth extraction. Okay, what else do we have? Yes, 50s house. Well, that's what I live in. That's what I'm going to build. Mitch lives near Florida. Yes, he is in Florida, Melbourne. Okay, oh, the thing is a little bit of a problem here. All right. Okay. I bought pink shoes on Friday. I need to buy new shoes. Well, there you go. Your feet are getting too small. Well, that's the other thing. When you start losing weight, a lot of that inflammation in your feet goes away. Now, I have size 15 feet, so I can't wear little feet, but my feet are narrow and I don't have any feet problems. I wear all different kinds of shoes. They don't bother me. I have friends that have to wear diabetic shoes because they get plantar fasciitis and all this other stuff. I wish I knew about carnivore so many years ago, so many years wasted with chronic fatigue syndrome. I wish this is the reason why I came out of the carnivore closet in 2022 to try to tell people about my experience. Have you been to Europe, Rick? I went recently. It was how incredible is architecture history. No, I've never been to Europe. I've never been out of the United States. When you're poor, you don't travel much. Be back, house hippo. That's fine. Children are a blessing. Yes, they are. If you raise them properly. If you don't raise them, they're going to be the first ones to put you in the nursing home. Okay. Uneducated economist. That's Simon. I've been on his channel many, many, many times, watching him. He talks from his car. Yeah, you can learn a lot from him. Although he is a little bit supportive of the central banking system to an extent, but he's a good source of information. I would definitely recommend his channel. I haven't had the time to watch his videos lately. I've been too busy working. But whenever I can, I do like to catch his videos because He's a real person, and he's got his kids, and I think he works at a lumber yard. Very, very good guy. Okay, Lee McCartney. I'm backed up by Siler. Yes, scared people cleaning out bullion. Well, you must mean silver. Silver and other metals are great, gold and so on. I have a copper hoard. I collect scrap copper and I melt it down. I don't really get into the gold and silver much because they're too hard to sell, but I can always sell the copper very easily. There are several places that buy it, that use it, for making wire and foundry and so on. If I have it in a form that is pure. Now, scrap, obviously, you go scrap yard, those people are nothing but crooks, and they're going to take advantage of you. But if you can melt it down yourself, that's good. Okay, there's a waiting list. Of course, there is. People love to buy those coins, gold and silver. I have a rare 1 ounce silver coin with Jekyll Island. There you go. The banker's on there. Yeah, there's a lot of these coins that are made. It's pretty good to collect. I'm off to bed. Hope you have a beautiful day. Okay, Josephine, have a good night. I'll catch you next time. Yep, I sold it. I sold mine for like 1/8 of what it was just to get the hell out of there. How to move to Pimvardi? I want to. Well, Barkay has his farm. He's an interesting character too, and I think he's even got Muscovy ducks. He showed the duckies. He even mentioned me because I was like, I think he was the second person to interview me after I was on Joey's channel. It's a shame that Joey just deleted all his videos because I had 3 interviews on there, and that was in summer of 22 was the first one. Bart, I think, was the second one. Second or third, I don't remember. I think Scott Everson might have been one a second or third. That was when it started coming in. I'm going to make a list because I have all the emails because I've never really asked anyone to be interviewed. They always ask me. So I have a list of all the channels I've been on. I've been on, I would say, more than 50 interviews, including some of the prominent ones. I think the best known is Anthony Chafee interview. So, but yeah, that's good. But anyway, yeah, the Barkay is an interesting one. I watched a lot of van lifers in USA. Yeah, they got squeezed out of the rental market. The rent here is overpriced. Do you have insurance for your house? No, I do not. My house is going to be worth money if it blew away or burned down because it would be free demolition for the lot. Because everybody here wants to build something new. They don't want an old house. Um, let's see. Oh, this list moves. I hate when you try to move through this list, it jumps around. Cats are rascals. Yes, they are. Oh, there's something else. Our heart surgeon at our public hospital is a carnivore. Well, good for him. Must be in pretty good shape. Love listening to your no nonsense chat. I hope to be like you and live how I want to. I'm 70% animal based, so getting there. That's good. If you eat 70% or more meat, you're one of us carnivores. Always cheers me up listening to you. Well, thank you, Jackie Wakefield. I'm glad that you're here. William McCartney. It was cold here. I lay low and do only what I have to. That's smart. That's interesting, Rick, that you know that much about inflation. But last stream, you said you don't like Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is the answer to solving inflation. It's not that I don't like Bitcoin. I used Bitcoin up until about 2012. What I don't like about Bitcoin is it's become so overinflated that it's impossible for normal people to be able to create it themselves. You have to rely on these large nodes to do it. And what's going to happen eventually, if the system sees it as a threat, they're going to cut off all the connections to the other currency, which will make it very difficult to get rid of. And if they shut down the internet, that's it. Bitcoin is done. And you have to realize that although people think the internet can't get shut down, how many people believe that they would shut down the world over the cold, the virus that we had? Nobody. If you would have told them that in January 2020, they would have laughed at you. But by March, it was already happening. So I don't like Bitcoin because of the fact that it's centralized control. They know everything about who's doing what. I don't like that. I like the idea of cryptocurrency. If I had my way, I would create one that would be backed up by eggs or meat. And then that way you could exchange it for farmers and ranchers directly. You could buy a whole cow, you could buy eggs or whatever, and you could exchange it for products or labor. So if you were a person that was selling, let's say, ball bearings, you could sell those ball bearings in that cryptocurrency, but it would be even better if you were providing labor, because if you were a person, when you're a laborer, you get charged a lot of tax. But if you were working at a farm and you were getting paid in that cryptocurrency, you could exchange that currency for meat. You could also receive some dollars as well. You could be paid like dual, part time in dollars, so the government doesn't shut you down, and part time in those crypto coupons, just like the stores give you coupons. So that's one option. And I'm hoping if I ever get into the production of meat, or even if I was producing fruits or vegetables, I mean, if I had an avocado grove and I was selling avocados, I have some of the best avocado varieties around. I could do the same thing. You could have it backed up by some type of real food, and then that way you're out of the system. The more of your productive labor you can take out of the system, the better. Then you just have to figure out how to play the system in a way, if you could get together with other people that are not going to cheat you, you could do the same thing the rich people do and leverage up the system. And then when the system collapses, just run away with your money like they do. Okay. They have snow. I've lost 10.4 kilograms, 22.9 pounds. Yeah, since the end of November. See, the carnivore diet works. There's no reason that you shouldn't try it. Just a dusting of snow. Okay, I could listen to Dr. Anthony all day long. Well, I'm sure you can. Most of the women would love to listen to him because he has a soothing voice and he's very attractive. I mean, obviously, I haven't seen him without his shirt lately, but the times they see it, the women they go crazy. Even some of the guys go crazy too. So hey, you know how it is. Okay, it's so lovely to be here, Rick. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad that you don't think I'm a total quack. My Staffordshire Terrier boxer mix loves to walk the neighborhood and see everyone she knows, where all her friends live and want to visit. That's funny. Yeah, my friend has pit bulls, which are a similar dog, and they're quite fun. He's got a couple of them. They're just amazing. Okay. Let's make the first ever carnivore coin on chain. That's what I want to do. I'd like to do that because I think that having a carnivore cryptocurrency, if it's peer to peer, something that people could create and use, that would be a great thing because now you could go anywhere. Anyone that participated in this cryptocurrency would exchange it, and you wouldn't have to have the third parties, you wouldn't have to have the exchanges. You can create it as you need it. That would be a great thing to have. I think it's amazing. Okay, hello, Rick. How are you, brother? Cheers from India. Well, hello, anti-hero. I'm doing good. The weather's great here. I don't know how it is in India. It's probably hot and humid, but hey, that's a challenging place to live, especially where they don't like to eat cows. That's just not. I don't know. That's crazy. What do you do when if you're eating dairy? Because I know that the Indians here they like their dairy. They have their butter and ghee. What do they do when the cow's too old? I guess they just turn them loose and let them live on the street. I've seen videos of that where you got cows just eating out of the garbage. That's kind of a shame. But hey, they do what they can, right? Dr. Anthony has a good heart. It makes him so likable. Yes, he does. And he was the first of the famous carnivores to approach me for an interview. So that's another good thing about him. Pit bulls are banned in Australia. They're actually banned here in Miami-Dade County, but I have a feeling that's going to change. Um, this government has been neoliberal for a very long time, but I think this whole conservative thing is coming back, and I think eventually they're going to get rid of that ban. I wish there was a carnivore dating site. That's a good thing. YouTube originally was a dating site. I'm sure somebody will start a carnivore dating site. I could only imagine. When you take your girl out for a date, you're not going to go to some fancy restaurant. You're going to go to the steakhouse. Or if your woman is really practical, you may just go to the park and fire up the grill and cook right there. One of the things I hate about dating is that everybody's in a race to see who can spend the most money to try to impress their date. And I really don't see that. I don't understand it. But I don't know. I guess everybody's different. Okay. Anthony is a social dog. Okay, to rescue. I owned it was not a nice. I took her in. Well, a lot of times you get animals, people that don't take care of them, and then they abuse their animals, and you see that a lot. That's why whenever I get, my ducks or my cats or whatever house, I treat them really well. Although sometimes my cats abuse me, as you can see, knock me offline, attack. I've got scratches thanks to my little beast. I got a scratch here on my leg. You know, I can't really see it, but it's right here. My little monster loves to attack me. That's just one of those things. Okay, let's see. William McCartney, you're a good man. Well, that's good. Well, looks like I've caught up with the comments and questions, so now it's time to talk about some other things. Now, obviously, my main audience is going to be the carnivore community, and that's good. And I'm glad that you're here because I'm a carnivore like you. Well, I'm not a carnivore like you. I'm the carnivore quack. And you have to realize that as the carnivore quack, I'm not here to convince people to go carnivore. That's your choice if you want to go carnivore. My reason for being here is just to give everyone my life experience, how I've been all these years, the things that I've done. And I'm kind of limited in time. I don't have the time that it takes to make proper YouTube videos. I was thinking about many of the subjects I want to do, and I often write down the things that I want to talk about. And one of the things that I do want to talk about that's been bothering me is the way that the elderly people in this country, in this world, are living their lives, the nursing homes that people get put in, the medications that they're on. And I can relate because my own parents, when they got into their 80s, they started to have all these issues. My mom and dad, actually, when they started in their 70s, that's when the problem started. So I wanted to make two videos. I was going to make one on my dad and sort of his journey, what he did for health and so on. And then my mother would be the next one. My mother was the one that had cancer twice and arthritis and all these other chronic conditions. And my dad, he was the one that was in the pursuit of health. He thought he would live to 100 with his juices and whole grains and superfoods and all this other stuff. Well, my dad died at 82. My mom died at 90. So even though my mom had, cancer twice, didn't eat the healthy diet. Well, she ate some of it, but not all of it. She lived longer. So it's kind of an interesting conundrum here. But, and then I want to compare myself when my dad was age 56 with the way that I am now. And I can tell you right now, I'm definitely healthier than my dad was, and my body composition is different. My dad used to struggle with weight. I mean, he was never obese, but he would weigh anywhere from 160 something to 190 something, depending on what he did. And he could fluctuate his weight very quickly. He could gain 20 pounds in a month. It was crazy. I had never seen anything like it. Me, I can't gain weight. No matter what I do, I can't gain weight. Right now, I weigh between 190 and 200 pounds. The only time that I was able to reach 220 is when I was working out and I was experimenting with various substances and I was eating the carnivore diet like a madman, dozen eggs a day, 6 pounds of meat, just tremendous amounts of food. And I could only get to 220 and I still look skinny. I never was able to build that, that impressive physique. I never look like Dr. Sean Baker or Anthony Chafee. It doesn't work that way. But on the other hand, when I compare myself to my parents, my mom had cancer by age 49. And my dad, he had a lot of issues. He had problems with his eyes. He had blood pressure issues. His cholesterol was fine, but his triglycerides were always high. And his blood sugar, it was hard to keep under control. You know, it would be 180, 120 up and down. So, and my dad was very much against sugar. He wouldn't eat cakes, cookies, desserts, or any processed foods. He avoided processed bread. It was always whole wheat bread and oatmeal and tofu and rice and beans and all this stuff. Only brown rice, never white rice, right? White rice was no good. So it always had to be this kind of dark, natural looking food. And yet he gained weight and his blood pressure was high. And then his son, the carnivore quack, is eating eggs and bacon and steak and pork and duck and fried chicken cooked in pure lard. It's all that stuff. And I'm not gaining weight. I was skinny. Wait till you get to be 30. Past 30, didn't gain any weight. Wait till you get to be 40, didn't gain any weight. Wait till you get to be 50. Well, unfortunately, my dad never lived long enough to see me get to 50, but my mother did. And she always said, one of these days it's going to catch up with you and you're going to gain weight and you're going to get a heart attack. I'm like, The heart attack is good. The gain weight I don't want. I don't want to become obese because then I'm not going to be able to work. But getting a heart attack, that would be great. I'd love to have a heart attack. And that was the one thing that everybody always would look at me like, why would you want a heart attack? Because it's just part of the diet. All right, let me get to comments. I see we're getting 33 people. That's good. Um, let's see. Did your mother cook with seed oils? Yes, she did. Not only did she cook with seed oils, but she also used something called super brand spread, which is like some kind of Crisco, cheap Crisco they used to sell at Winn Dixie. That's what she cooked the eggs in. And it smelled like paint. It was terrible. When I started cooking for myself, I went for the beef tallow and lard. And when my mom would cook any kind of meat, she used to throw the fat away and I would save it. And my dad was convinced that I had a death wish because I was over there. I go to the Grand Union and I get all the fat trimmings they threw away. I'd go outside, I'd cook it up on the grill. And yeah, I was making tons of lard. And my mom used to say that's what her parents did when she was a kid. And it was terrible because they would render the lard and it smelled so bad. But me, I would eat the lard. I don't care. Okay, Annabella, my dad had to go into a nursing home. We were so sad about it. We just couldn't take care of him, even though we wanted to. I would have done everything for my dad if I only knew about carnivore. Well, this is the reason why I became poor. I was no longer able to run a business and I was no longer able to work regularly. I started taking care of my dad in 2010 and I also took care of my mom. Because the thing is, my dad was getting stuff from my mom so she could cook and do her thing. Once my dad became sick, I had to go to the store. I ended up moving back with my parents. I had no choice. I had to do it. And after my dad died, my mom was by herself. So for the next 7 years, almost 8 years, I had to take care of my mom. Now, originally, mom was still able to cook and do things for herself, but she couldn't move around. Her eyesight had been fixed. And again, I'll get into this when I do the story, but she was not driving. She stopped driving probably in her 70s because her eyesight was so bad. And then after that, she just didn't drive anymore. And her car basically rusted into the ground because it sat so long. So, yeah, I had to do that. And, you know, but I did keep my parents out of the nursing home. They were in a nursing home for rehabilitation, but in 2018, when my mom was in the nursing home, she was not getting any better and she ended up catching some kind of pneumonia. But then when she was released from the hospital, they wanted to know if they want to put her back in the nursing home. I said, no, I'm going to bring her home and see. Since my mom was not completely mobile, I was able to sneak in some of my crafty carnivore foods. And you'll see, like, what is the guy, Chris Cooking Nashville? They make these crafty carnivore foods that look like non carnivore foods. I started doing that for my mom, and it actually worked. And I was able to get my mom on her feet in 2 weeks. When the nursing home, it was almost 3 weeks, and she was still in the bed. Because when I was taking care of mom, I was giving her better food. I had to keep taking food to the nursing home because she wouldn't eat that duck crap. And in fact, I used to bring it home to the ducks and throw it to them and watch the ducks just kind of like spit it out because it was so bad. So that was one of those things. All right. They drug my dad with antidepressants. Yeah, see, that's it. They just want to drug him. That's what they always do. When they get, people are old, they don't want to be in nursing home. I don't want to be in the nursing home. I want to get a heart attack. But the problem is, I could never convince my mom and dad, you know what? You have a choice. You can be weak, helpless, and worry about the nursing home, or you can hit the steak and you can hit the eggs and you can get yourself stronger until that heart goes boom, and that's it. And when that heart blows out, that's the end of it. You'll die. That's it. You might stand up and you want to go outside, and all of a sudden, everything just goes black and you fall over. It's just like a duck or chicken having a heart attack when you chase them. Same thing. And of all the ways to go, in my opinion, the heart attack is still the best. You always talk about the old man that dies when he's mating, or the person that dies when they're having fun. They have a heart attack and they drop dead. That's what you want to do. To me, that's the way to go. All right. I had 10 eggs today. Man, you must be rich. 10 eggs today, the most I've ever had. I'll tell you, if I get a good source of eggs, I'm going to go back to a dozen eggs a day because it always worked for me. My ex-wife has been diagnosed with cancer and won't listen. See, won't listen to the logic. And the thing is that when my parents had their issues, I wish that this YouTube thing would have been there because in 2010 there was no Anthony Chafee, there was no Dr. Sean Baker. None of these people were there. I don't even think Saladino was carnivore. There was no carnivore YouTube presence. There was a few people out there that were carnivore, but I don't think they were making videos. But you know, what can you do? But yeah, I just and old people are so stubborn. My mom wouldn't eat anything except ice cream towards the end. Even my dad, who never ate sugar, when he got sick, he craved ice cream. Ugh, just so frustrating. It was so much to handle. I don't know what to do. Okay. Mm, Antidepressants are terrible. I was on them for 9 years. Wow. Best thing I ever did was get rid of them. Well, you know what? If you can free yourself from medication, that's a good thing because medications are expensive. And even if your insurance or the government's paying for it, this is the thing. I don't like to buy anything that supports the idle rich. Now, I'm not saying that being rich is a bad thing. If you can become rich by providing good value for people, you treat your employees well, you know, and you're well liked, then good for you. That's a good thing. But to become obscenely rich, come here to Miami, ruin our lives with your overpriced crap, drive up our taxes, and show off your money to a bunch of poor people because rich people always have to be surrounded by poor people or they're not happy. Or at least what I should say is rich parasites. Because real rich people love being around other real rich people. If I had money, which who knows, I may someday, I don't know. But if I had a successful business, I would make sure that my employees got the best reward, which means I probably wouldn't be rich. You wouldn't see me here in Miami on one of those overpriced houses because that's just money that I could have given to my workers and I could have given to my customers. In order to extract money to become wealthy, you have to cheat somebody. You have to cheat the government, you have to cheat your customers, whatever. Buy cheap crap from China, they get paid nothing, jack up the price, and you get rich. That's like for years I would buy stuff from Harbor Freight Tools. Now I hardly buy anything from Harbor Freight Tools because the main owner of the company is living in this big mansion. It's like these religious scammers. You got these guys that go on the religious channels and they beg for money and they drive around in Lamborghinis and they have private jets and they live in these expensive homes. So what happens to me is when I see somebody getting fabulously rich, I stop doing business with them as much as I can because I don't think that's right. Now, I realize that most of that comes from the central banking system, but it's just a principle that I have. Okay, William McCartney, that's awful. I tried to help a girl on YouTube. Her husband got cancer. They deleted the links I sent about keto. Again, when you have nothing to lose, it's always a good idea to try something extreme, especially when somebody offers you advice and they're not begging you for money. That's a pretty sincere offer. But you know what? You just dig your own grave. If you want to eat duck food and you have cancer, too bad. I don't know what to do. I give up. All right, let's see. We grew up with beef dripping until 97. Yeah, that's true. Your dad is funny. Okay. You are as good a good man, Rick. Well, thank you, Annabella. I hope I am. Hello, Annabella. If love had been enough, my dad would have been well. He would have been so proud of all the changes I made with carnivore. Well, good for you. You know what? Maybe he will. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? No, I'm not rich, but I'm doing OMAD. Well, hey, you know, eggs were always a cheap source of protein. All the poor bodybuilder guys that I knew ate a bunch of eggs. And even though they were poor, of course, they ate a lot of duck food too. So none of them are in good shape now, but they were in beautiful shape when they were younger. And I guess it worked for them because they all got married and they have kids. And, now they're not doing as well, but they enjoyed it when they had the time. Let's see. I was on antidepressants. They were horrible. Okay. Rachel Fitzpatrick says, Rick, I'd like to see you on the Tammy Peterson podcast. I have no idea who that is. But then again, I don't listen to podcasts. The only thing I check out is YouTube. I'm primitive here. Have always called the rich parasites. Well, they are. But the thing is, not all rich people are parasites, but the rich people that we see are. And I'm going to talk about my definition of riches in a video. I may even mention it here. Let's see. I have a friend almost lost it a couple of years ago when he unexpectedly ran out of his antidepressant meds. Almost got violent at work. See, that's the problem. You get those withdrawals. It took me about a year to get over it. It was hard. I actually thought totally worth it in the long run. My dad has passed away, Rick. Oh, that's sad. That happens. It's only a matter of time. We're all going to die. Tammy Peterson is Jordan Peterson's wife. Well, I remember Jordan Peterson from his philosophical things, but I seriously doubt that any of the famous people would want to interview somebody like me because I'm the opposite of famous. Yes, they are hard to get off. Took me a while, yeah. Okay, being around the friend I am talking about is never really comfortable. He always seems high or something from it. Kind of rushes around, even in conversation. Yeah, you can see that in a lot of mentally ill people. Meathead says, Good morning. Good morning. Good morning from, hey, financial prepper, Chris. Hey, everybody. Good to see you here, Rick. Well, thank you. I love your channel. This is one of those people that I wish was my neighbor. This is a great guy. If you've never looked at his channel, Financial Prepper, he also has a welding channel. So, and I recommend to everybody, if you have room for tools, why don't you buy a welder and learn how to weld? It's not that hard to do. And welding is one of those things that can save your life. You can save a lot of money and you can make extra money with other people. And there's no obstacle. You could go to even a Harbor Freight. You could go to the Craigslist or whatever and find a welder. So again, if you're going to you want to get sort of more independent, you need to learn some skills, and that's one of the skills that I would recommend. Also, I tell people learn how to do gardening because even if you're carnivore, gardening it's a great barter tool. If you can give out fruits and vegetables and barter it for other things, you can even save a life. I mean, you could probably save your own if you're not allergic to these fruits and vegetables and you run out of meat, the world is not getting any better. You may find ways to ferment them or you could feed them to your animals. There's a lot of things you could do. Okay, let's see who else we have. Um, I would say that Tammy Peterson would love to have you on a podcast. Well, let's see if we can figure out how to make that happen. I would love to try that. I'm going to suggest it to her. You should. You should. I'm always willing to go on any podcast or any interviews. I never say no. I even tell the vegans, of course, they never take my offer. If you want to interview somebody, go ahead and interview me. I don't have a problem with it. I got nothing to hide. I'm not like these raw vegan scammers that go out there with video filters and try to act like they're on the raw vegan diet and you can save everybody with that. And again, I'm not saying that vegan diet is bad. I'm just saying it doesn't work for me. It may work for them. Okay, it's Sunday morning here, 12:50 a.m. Well, that's good. It's 9:52 here in South Florida. Welding is fun. Yes, it is. And again, especially if you're into farming or you work with equipment, welding can save you a ton of money. Okay. I've, I've okay, I'm learning gardening this year. Well, there you go. See? You should learn gardening. Gardening is a good thing. We just we just hired a welder as a bartender at the restaurant. I said, hire her. Well, now, there you go. And Chris says, I can't imagine a vegan wanting to interview you. Well, the thing is, I wouldn't mind interviewing a vegan. But the problem is, all the vegans that I know, they tend to get unhinged very quickly. When you start talking about the benefits of meat, they lose it. And I'm trying to tell them, I said, look, I'm not against eating vegetables and fruits. People have been eating vegetables and fruits for thousands of years. And I think even people that are primarily carnivore still eat some fruits and vegetables. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is when you eat processed crap, you're taking low quality foods, low energy state foods, and trying to make them taste better to fool people. Then you put in chemicals like MSG. You know what's a natural source of glutamate? Is meat. So if you eat lots of meat, you're not going to need the MSG. In fact, those MSG foods are going to be repulsive to you. That's been my experience. Okay, let's see. Thanks for the shout out. Anytime, Chris. Again, your channel is something everyone should watch because the carnivore community and the financial community and the prepper community, they sort of cross paths, you know. In the carnivore space, you have the very popular carnivore like Carrie Mann, the Homestead How. His channel started with the whole homesteading thing, and he's popular because he has kids and he lives in the country and he has the meat source. And the same thing with, Chris's channel. He lives in the country and he's got a lot of beneficial information. I try to recommend all the channels that I watch. I've been watching these channels for years, so that's good. Okay, let's see. Um, I can't. Okay, thanks. Hey, Rick, why don't you go back to teaching if you need more moolah? Well, the problem is this: I taught at Miami-Dade College for 13 years, and they changed the program for AS to BS degree, properly named. And I only have a bachelor's in science in electrical engineering. That you need to have at least a master's to go into that program for their accreditation. And I am not going back to college to do something I already did. So now I'm sure if I move somewhere else, I might be able to find a trade school or another community college that may hire me. I don't know. But at this point here, the people that have PhD or doctorate degrees are a dime a dozen. So a doctorate degree, you can find anyone. They're all desperate for money and they all work part time. Plus, the amount of students that go to the college is decreased. And I tend to think part of it is that since I'm no longer teaching there, you have a lot of these people that push their theory. Mine is basically lab based. I can teach anybody the basics of electronics in 3 classes. No one else can do that. So I'm not going to bother, why would I go there? And I do occasionally tutor people on a one-to-one basis that work in technical fields. They may be working, well, in the old days they used to work for Bell South, which now it's AT&T. But they were sending students to Miami-Dade to get teaching, and that's how I started teaching these classes because somebody that I knew that worked at AT&T, which was Bell South at the time, had recommended that. They talked to the college, and that's how I got in there. But I don't think that's going to happen, at least for now, when you have all these people with degrees they don't need. Okay, I made heart attack drumsticks again. I have gone up to 25 minutes with the bacon deep fry. See, that's about the range, somewhere between 20 to 30 minutes, depending on your heat source. And let me tell you something, nothing beats heart attack chicken. It is so crunchy and delicious. It's amazing. Have an awesome day, everybody. And Stacy, I've got to get ready for a live stream. Well, I think your live stream, what is it, 11, 10 or 11? I'm going to try to catch your live stream as well. But thanks for being here, Chris. I'm very glad that you take your time to check out my video. Question, Rick, have you tried to get up Buy Me a Coffee? No, I haven't. I really haven't messed with it. I may, I don't know. But the thing is, I don't like coffee. I know it's just a donation site, but I don't know. I might do it. Hard to say. Let's see. Void Lamb, go over to the corner with your cigar. Do your ducks ever try to walk with you? Yes, they do sometimes. I've had them walk around the neighborhood. It's quite funny. Rick, would you consider filming and putting up some classes on YouTube? Absolutely. I would absolutely do that. Um, I might even do classes in electronics. I may even do a class on how to rebuild an E40D transmission because that's what I'm going to do with my van. I'll definitely do that. That's in the works. Question for anyone here. Who knows SSDI recipients that's on carnivore and been interviewed? I don't know of any. That would be Social Security disability. I assume that's what you mean. I don't know anybody. All the people that I know that are on Social Security disability eat garbage. In fact, the one guy I know, he still smokes cigarettes, and I keep telling him, you cough all the time. You sound like Marge Simpson when you talk. You need to stop that. But they don't. I think a lot of the people on disability, they just become conditioned to that and they don't realize that they could reverse their condition. And I think some people are afraid if they get healthy, they're going to lose their disability. So that may be another factor. It's like all the fat people here that they have the disabled parking spaces. And I'm not trying to offend any of you fat people because I don't have a problem calling somebody fat. I think sometimes truth is the truth. But I remember when I was younger, you know how they have the little wheelchair symbol on that? I hated those stupid handicap things. So what I did, I made a sticker of like a round fat person with two little arms and legs sticking out and a big round head, and I stuck it over that on every one of those disabled things. And I'm sure the police were really trying to figure that one out, because every time I went to the store and had the stupid disabled thing, I'll stick that on there. And it must have been embarrassing for the first fat people that drove up and saw that big round thing. And what it looked like, I made it look like that character, Fat Bastard, from the Austin Powers movie. So it was quite funny. But, I love that. Okay. Have a great day. Thank you, Lizzie. I'm glad you were here. You could teach shop in high school. They still do that. That's true. When I was in high school a million years ago, it was very popular. That's true. Those vocational classes, my electronics teacher actually did not have a college degree, and he taught at the high school. It's hard to say. They don't really have that many shop classes like they used to. I know in the junior high they took out the shop class, but I'm 56. I don't think anybody's going to hire somebody that old. Okay. Question, Rick. Have you ever tried to set up Buy Me a Duck? If I could figure out how to set up a website like that, I'm thinking about it. Buy me an egg, buy me a duck, buy me an iguana, or something like that. That would be kind of funny. Um, I have had e-commerce before. I guess I could set up a payment system. That would be an idea. Problem is, it probably cost me more than the money I would get. So I have to think about that. There must be some way of doing it. Quack Addict is in the house. Well, there you go. I'm glad you're here. And we're up to 34 again. That's great. Let's see. No tobacco for me. Agree with that. I don't like cigars and cigarettes and any of that stuff. Although I do grow tobacco in my yard as an insecticide. I use it in my garden. And there's a big tobacco plant in my front yard right now. The problem is ducks love to eat it. One of the secrets about ducks, they love to eat tobacco leaves. They also eat the leaves of my anthuriums, which are somewhat related. And tobacco flowers are fragrant and beautiful. The biggest enemy of the tobacco are the big fat green hornworms, and I'm always grabbing them, and you know where they go. They go straight to the ducks. They love those fat hornworms. But I do not like the idea of smoking anything. The only thing I like to smoke is pork and brisket, and that's it. I'm not going to smoke myself. I don't want to turn myself into, smoked sausage or something like that. And Boyd Lamb says, yep, no smoking. He walks with me. Hi, Rick and everyone. Hello. Glad to have you here. My high school was off the chain. Had a friend who dosed a shop teacher with LSD. Well, I can tell you a story about what happened with popcorn in our junior high and some cannabis extract that we made. Because again, even though I'm a carnivore, I always love to experiment with plant chemicals. And it's turned into a whole industry now, but back then it was just a joke. I never smoked cigarettes. Had a couple cigars in my day, but used to be a pothead. Now, I have a couple of friends that are potheads. They just can't resist. If I were to ever start smoking cigars, I would only smoke a few ones because it would make me look rich. A short cigar looks trashy. Well, yeah, that would be like Clint Eastwood with a short cigar. Okay, Rick, have you ever smoked or drank alcohol before? I have always hated smoking ever since I was a kid. We used to walk by the bingo place. I used to love bowling, but I couldn't bowl because of the cigarettes in the bowling alley. This is the reason why I got my own bowling lane and pin setter, because I love to bowl, but I hate cigarettes. And I think that people look stupid when they smoke. Back in the 80s, it was really common. Many offices, even in the school board offices, they used to allow smoking. I thought it was so stupid, puffing on these stupid sticks of paper and leaves. It just never made sense to me. So I thought smoking was stupid, even though I'm a big fan of the 1950s. I love that mid century aesthetic. So I thought my ideal world would be the 1950s without cigarettes. So I never smoked. However, have you ever drank alcohol? Yes, I have. I've had alcohol many times. I used to make alcohol as a fuel. In fact, I had a permit for a while where I made it to run in my Charger. I was running it on ethanol. It really was nice. But I don't like the taste of alcohol. And I've had several friends that have ruined their lives with alcohol. In fact, I have a friend right now who struggles with alcohol addiction. And there are times when we've had a steak together and I have a little bit of wine with it. And I completely stopped. I said, you know what? I've seen too many people ruin their lives with alcohol. I don't even like the taste of it. So about 4 years ago, maybe, I stopped. I have a bunch of wine bottles in my collection from when my dad was alive, when people have given it to me. I give it away to people that like it, but I stopped giving wine to anyone because I'm sick and tired of seeing people ruin their lives. If you go, you see all the homeless people, most of them are on drugs and alcohol. You see all the wine bottles, you see the whiskey bottles, and I believe that alcohol is a curse. And even though, like in the Bible, it says that you can use it as a remedy when you have a stomach issue, alcohol is antibacterial. I think it actually kills more beneficial bacteria, and I think it's a mistake. I don't even use rubbing alcohol. I don't want alcohol in my body or on it. But as a fuel, it's a great fuel. It also works good, like when you make sterno or you want to keep your food warm. It's a great food warmer because I have alcohol burners that you can use, like when you make your meat and you put it in a tray, you put it outside, you have like a get together, you have a buffet. It works really, really well. So that's good. Okay, let's see. I don't like bowling. It hurts my thumb and my back. Oh, come on. I've never had back issues. I always use a 16-pound ball. I love bowling. I love getting that ball and trying to control it, get it into the pins. I can make a mean hook with my bowling ball. And, they got those fancy urethane balls. I was using the old rubber ball. And what I would do, I clean it with acetone so that way it hooks really hard. Plus, I had my own lane machine so I could set the oil right down the middle and I could strike every single time. I think I did 300 games in my side yard when I had the bowling alley set up, and no one else could even come close. Not even the friends of mine that were professional bowlers. Now, of course, my bowling shoes have deteriorated. My bowling lanes, they've been under a tarp for years. They're probably no good now, but if they are still good, the pin setters are still inside the house. So if I ever do move, I'm going to set up another bowling lane. It'll be another reason for people to come over. You can come over to my house and bowl. So that'll be good. Let's see. Same happened to my shop teacher, but my school people sucked. I used to put vodka in my old Chevy truck. It'll work. You can nowadays they sell gasoline with ethanol. So you can mix ethanol and gasoline. It also helps to isolate the water. Is it true that you can get a free federal alcohol permit? Also, are you subject to inspection? Yes, it is true. And I had that permit for years. In all the years I had it, I was only inspected once. The requirement was they inspect your still. And in fact, they never inspected my still initially. I just sent in pictures of it and they approved it. And then they had a random inspection once. And the idea is this: if you're going to make alcohol, you can make it from whatever you want. I had a restaurant, several restaurants. The discarded alcohol, like when people drink wine or beer or whatever, and they have this left over, I gave them a container they could pour it in. So they started pouring all this spent alcohol, stuff that went bad, bottles that were partially empty. And then I had a still set up. I used a steam still, and it produces a very high percentage, 90, I think it was 92, 94%, somewhere around there. And I had the little float that you could put in there to determine the percentage. I don't think you can get any more than 98% alcohol because I think the most I ever get was 94%, but that was plenty. But it has to be denatured in order to be sold. It's like when you go to the hardware store and you buy denatured alcohol. You can denature with anything that is not drinkable. And what I normally use, now you could use methanol, but methanol is quite toxic. I was using methanol when I was making biodiesel, so you could do that. But I would use gasoline. That's all that I would do. I would use gasoline. And when they did come for the inspection, they did check to make sure that it was not drinkable. They used some type of test strips, and it did have gasoline in it. Now, did I use the alcohol pure? Sometimes, yes, I did. And I have to admit that I did taste it from time to time to see how bitter it was. And I did have a friend of mine that got a hold of some of it and drank it, but I never distributed it. I never did anything illegal with it. And I had a really good experience. And I didn't drive that much. So my Charger, I had to rejet the carburetor. It had an amazing performance. It sucked a lot of fuel, but it ran so good. It ran clean. That was the other thing about alcohol. you're not my cars always had rust holes in them, so you gas yourself driving down the road, but driving on alcohol, the exhaust was clean, it ran really good, and basically you had to keep it, keep the moisture out of it because it will rust your system. But if the alcohol is very pure and you keep I never use the factory tank. I always use one of those race tanks that has the bladder inside of it. The factory tank I always kept with gasoline. I normally kept it empty so it wouldn't rust, and it ran good. So, and I used stainless steel fuel lines, and I had no problems. The engine ran fantastic. In fact, it burned a lot of the carbon off the engine. It got more power because alcohol is an excellent fuel when your engine's set up for it. Okay, what's your opinion of Barquet? Barquet is entertaining. Um, he's a good source of information. He is one of the first people that interviewed me. I like to watch his channel. I watch it whenever I can. He does tend to be a little overcritical of some people, but I think that's his style. His style is to be combative and aggressive. I don't think he's that way in real life. And I wouldn't mind, if he was my neighbor, I'm sure we'd be good friends. So that's my opinion of him. I think that to some extent, he is a bit extreme, saying that no one should ever eat a single carbohydrate in their life. But I'm living proof that you can go long periods of time without carbohydrates. I don't know if he actually eats a carbohydrate free diet. I know he's mentioned having other things, but he has been on a low carb diet for decades and he seems to be healthy. So, you know, I think he's a pretty good member of the carnivore community. William McCartney, my friend from high school, was arrested in China for opiates and once deported back to America was arrested. Hmm. What up with him now? Well, those illegal substances, they have a high price sometimes. I prefer non-ethanol petrol. Um, I got bad news for you. Non-ethanol gasoline makes my engines ping because without the tetraethyl lead they used to put in the gas, they just ping. So I can't run that stuff in my old engines. They'll destroy the valves. Okay. Isn't that basically making moonshine? Yes, it is. But moonshine is made, basically to, illegally to drink. This is legal. There is a provision. The ATF will issue you a permit. And as long as you don't break the law, they don't give you any hassles. Now, if they start finding a lot of moonshine in the area, they trace it back to your still, I'm sure you'll be in real big trouble. But I had no interest in that. My interest was in fuel because I'm really into this alternative fuel world. Okay. He should be in prison forever what he did to the teacher. Yeah, no kidding. Ethanol rust engines. Not necessarily. Ethanol does not rust the engine. If you have the proper mixture, it burns cleanly. It's actually the opposite. Ethanol can clean your engine. I actually cleaned the carbon out of my engine by using ethanol. Testing and calibrating methanol gas detectors as we speak. Yes. Using ethanol to test ethane has almost the exact same gas curve as methanol and is industry standard to be used for methanol. That is correct. Free ingredients grow wild. Many starchy plants like cattails, pine tree, researching get close to 100% alcohol by using zeolite. Yes. I was using zeolite actually to refine plastic into diesel. I've experimented with that. I had a lot of those videos in the past, but that was one of the things that got deleted from YouTube. I think they didn't like any of that stuff, so I don't really talk much about it. Okay, Barkay does admit to imbibing on beer sometimes. Yeah, of course. He's not 100%. I think I'm more carnivore than he is, but that's fine. You do what you can. I like Barkay myself. He's informative, entertaining. That's exactly what I was saying. Sorry for your valves. Well, if you run regular gas, and you have to remember that the octane rating of gas is a made up thing and it's basically designed to, you know, simulate how fast it burns. Higher octane fuel burns slower than lower octane fuel. So lower octane fuel tends to be more explosive. This is one of the reasons why when you run lean, you're going to get very, very hot because more of the, in other words, you want something that has a more controlled explosion, the expansion, because when you're burning, you're oxidizing, it's going to burn outward. If you burn slower, then you can compress it more. And the trick with an engine You mix the air and fuel together and you press it into as small a space. That way you have the right amount. Now you want to have the proper amount of fuel per air mixture to get the proper burn. But the closer you can squeeze it together, the more of that energy is going to go into motion. You don't want just heat, because what good does that do? Heat is the wasted energy. That's why the diesel engine is so much more efficient than the gasoline engine, because diesel is more resistant to burning when being compressed. Remember, when you compress a vapor, the molecules get closer and closer together and it heats it up. So by putting in fuels that don't burn as easily, like alcohol, you can decrease the explosiveness when you compress the air fuel mixture. That's what tetraethyl lead used to do. And tetraethyl lead, there's ethylene in there, which is similar to alcohol. And then lead was a stabilizer. But we know that lead is toxic. So they had to get rid of it, although they still use it in aviation, is my understanding. But that's the key. So that's why we have alcohol in our fuel. Now, again, alcohol can attract moisture and rust your system. But if you properly care for it, if your fuel system, you have a stainless steel tank, stainless steel lines, you keep your carburetor clean, or you have injectors, keep the oxygen out of your system, you can be okay. They have like Ford EcoBoost engines, which are not very good, but they're designed to run on E85, which is 80%, 85% ethanol, and they work just fine. Okay, let's see. What else do we have? Sorry for okay. My valves are fine. If my valves are the problem, some would say. You can also put hardened valves in there, which they started doing in the 1970s, and valve seats. Okay, my truck is E85 compatible. Engines are making. Yeah, you could do that. If you could set up the still and get the permit. Now, they won't give you the permit if you have a criminal record, but if you don't have a criminal record, the permit is easy to get. And, I mean, obviously you're dealing with the government, but dealing with the ATF in that manner is a lot easier than dealing with the county. The county is usually a little bit more corrupt and a little more difficult to deal with. But just make sure you don't have any criminal background and you'll be fine. And you can do that. And I'm sure it's very encouraging. They're not going to stick you with any kind of road tax, because I asked about that. There's no provision for that. The thing is, you cannot sell it, you cannot distribute it. If you were to sell that fuel, you'd have to go through a tremendous amount of permits and you'd pay tax and everything. But for your own personal use, it is acceptable. And I would encourage it. I may do that again if I move to the country. When I moved to the country, I used to make stills for moonshine for guys who couldn't figure out how to braise. Yeah, that's right. Or sweat copper. Now, I hope you were using lead-free solder if you're sweating copper. I mix non-ethanol with ethanol to clean my engine. Exactly. Big if, Rick. Yeah, no kidding. I'm in law enforcement, so it might be okay. Yeah, I think it would be. I don't think that's a problem. Police, fofo. I think you're a sheriff's deputy, aren't you? If I remember correctly. I can't keep up with everyone. But these alternative fuels are good. And the other thing that I did for years was wood gas. If anyone is familiar with wood gas, then you know what I'm talking about. That's where you take solid wood and plastics and other materials and you heat them up in a special gasifier. And then you use the gas vapor to run your engine. I ran my truck on that from about 2014 to 2008, when the truck disintegrated and went over the railroad tracks and fell apart. Then in 2009, I was running the vegetable oil, which I ran until 2023, when my engine finally gave up. Once I get the engine back again, then I will run vegetable oil all over again. And I refine my vegetable oil so well that it doesn't smell like French fries. It's heated, it's centrifuged. I use washing soda and other alkalis to take it out, and that's it. Okay, let's see. Always use lead free. Don't shoot, don't shoot. I'm carnivore. Coconut husks make great alternative fuel. And you know what? I did that. If you look around my yard, you'll see a bunch of old coconuts laying around, because not only the coconut husk, but the coconut shell. And when I would cook for my mom, like let's say my mom, she loved popcorn. She didn't want me to use lard, so I used coconut oil. I would make the coconut oil from neighborhood coconuts. And then basically the coconut shell and the coconut husk would be left over. I'd dry them out and I'd stick them in my truck back when I had the truck. And then later on, I just started using them to produce wood gas for cooking. Now, I've switched to biogas, So I actually use poop and plant material in IBC tanks to produce the gas that I cook with in my kitchen. It works really well. It's pretty nice. Okay, haha. Rick, do you have any hobbies? I work, eat, and sleep. I guess my hobby is YouTube. So this would be my hobby. I live in the backwoods of Northwest Alabama. Almost tempted to skip the permit. Well, there you go. I'm sure you could get away with it for a while, but why not get the permit? It's actually kind of neat, you know. Rick, got it. The CV. What is that? Not the sheriff. I see. Don't you? Okay, I remember that song. I have a CB in my truck, by the way. Rick's daily life is like his hobby. Yeah, that's about right. And riding your bike is a hobby. Well, that's true. Working on cars also. I ride my bike because my transmission doesn't always cooperate, and sometimes it's just faster to go to Presidente. If I drive, I don't get to look at the ducks and the iguanas. I don't get to talk to them. I sit in traffic. I go in the parking lot. I have to deal with La Abuela that can't drive, and the women and the men that are looking at their phone. They don't know where they're going. I can just kind of go in the back, go through the parking lot, and hit the front of Presidente. I can get out of there. I actually save anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes taking my bike over there. So that's pretty good. Okay. Good night, everyone. I'm falling asleep. Love you guys. Well, good night. I'm glad you were here. I am still alive. Yes, that's a good thing. Night. Everyone seems to refer to CB as a sheriff. Okay. Good night, Annabella. And down here, our police officers, they renamed it back to the sheriff's department, so now they call them deputies. Did you catch any ducks this week? No, I did not. I didn't catch any, but I am enticing them back to my house. I'm not going to cook any duck. I need eggs more than I do duck meat. So I'm trying to get the mamas to come here because spring is coming and they'll be laying. And hopefully I'll get some delicious duck eggs. I want to get at least maybe 12 females to hang out here. So then that'll give me at least 4 eggs a day. That'll be good. Okay. Let's see. Correct. Some people don't seem to know the difference. Oh, that's true. Did you collect the duck fat separate to cook with? There's just not that much duck fat out of a Muscovy duck, but normally the duck fat will go with the duck meat. Most of the time when I cook duck, it's going to be like in the crock pot or something that's enclosed, or I'll deep fry it. So if I deep fry the duck, I always deep fry in beef tallow. So I guess the duck fat mixes with the beef tallow that's left over because after I fry it, I screen and I reuse the beef tallow several times until it becomes semi solid and dark. And then I use it for making soap. It's also a great hand cleaner. And any of you guys that are mechanics and you've used Gojo or Goop or one of those hand cleaners, I do the same thing. I get a glass or plastic container. I put the used lard or tallow in there when it's soft. And then, like last week, I was cutting down a tree for someone. I had a bunch of tree sap on my hands and arms. I cleaned it with the leftover fat and it came out just fine. So that's good. I have a bike, but I do not dare leave it outside of a store. Well, my bike came from the dump or a trash pile. So I do lock it up, but I use a rusty chain and a big lock. No one's ever touched my bike. I got bald tires on it. I got duct tape on the seat. No one's going to steal that thing. They might even leave me another one. Okay. All right, Annabella, please sleep safe. Okay, that's good. Good to know about reusing beef tallow. I wondered about that. Yes, you can do that. The trick with lard and tallow is don't overheat it. If you heat it up to the smoke point, you're going to oxidize it and it's going to turn dark, but it's still usable. You want to keep the heat down in the cooking range. If you see any smoke coming out of your pot, turn that heat off and then reset it because you're destroying your cooking fat. I can get 10 to 20 uses out of my tallow if I use it properly. That's the secret. But if you don't use it that well, maybe 4 uses. There's a misconception that vegetable oil lasts longer than tallow, and that is not true. Tallow actually lasts longer. But the reason they use vegetable oil is because a lot of people they have immersion type electric fryers, and if you're going to use that with the solid, you plug it in, you'll burn up the heating element. So if I use an immersion fryer, I have to go ahead and I have to melt the tallow or lard first. But I normally just do it on the stove because it's quicker. Okay, Harris County, Texas. Harris County Sheriff's Department. I have surgery on the 29th, so no more skin cancer soon. Excellent. Question: are you like me and don't care about grass-fed beef? Yes, I can't afford it, you know. If I can get grass-fed beef, I'll get it. I just get whatever they have on sale at the store. I don't care. I figure that regular beef is better than eating duck food. What is this? Okay, we got a duck fight going on outside. I guess one of the males is deciding to fight with the other one. Oh well. Anyway, okay. Question. Okay, that's that. Tallow can last for decades. That's right. Pemmican can last 50 years unrefrigerated. That is true. Do you ever eat squirrels? No, I've never eaten any squirrels. I figured they're too tiny to bother with. But I guess some people do. I know people that have hunted squirrels. All right. Let's see. I respect Rick to return to the camera with Milton stuck. Yeah, poor Milton. I let him out. I might let him back in just to see if he behaves. If you want me to let him back in, I'll let him back in. He's getting close to the end of the stream anyway. I know that's life. I'm used to grain finished taste. Grass finished, I don't prefer taste. I like the taste, but it does taste more like Muscovy duck when it's grass finished. The best beef, I have to tell you, is fruit finished. It may seem strange, but that's how we used to do it here. All the mangoes and avocados and stuff like that that were not good enough to sell, they used to give them to the cattle. And also salads, tomatoes, whatever, any kind of fruit or vegetable matter that was no good, they gave it to the cows and they would finish on that. And it was really good. Tropical fruit finished beef is the best, I have to admit. Very, very flavorful. And also, the beef that is grass raised, and we don't have it anymore because the only thing we raise now is crappy condos. But because they were eating fresh grass, the meat was actually very flavorful, even if they were grass finished. Because generally, we only cut hay for the horse people. We never fed the cattle hay down here. It was all just, they ate a lot of that elephant grass and sugar cane. And elephant grass and sugar cane make some really flavorful beef. Lots of fatty, tasty beef. So that's it. Okay. Quacking cow. Squirrel, just furry tail, eats their nuts. Rats, they are nuts. Yeah, they are. Tons, not tones. Okay. We want to see Milton. I'll bring him in. I like grain finished beef, homegrown bison. Milton, Milton. Let me get him. Hold on. Here, kitty. Come on, Milton. Come here. Come on. Oh my goodness. He must be sleeping, but he'll be here in no time. I open the door. I give him up. Oh, here he is. Hello. Are you going to behave now or are you going to send me offline? Look at that. You are such a pretty cat. Look at you. Well, you look nice and calm now. Yeah. Oh, he's such a good kitty. What? You were sleeping, weren't you? Yeah, okay. There we go. You're a good kitty. Look at that. Look at that cute little face. Yeah. You gonna bite me? Hey, no. You trying to bite me already? What's wrong with you? Look at this little monster. Ow. What a menace. Hey, stop it. No. No biting. No. You little beast. You're a beast. You know that? Ow, my goodness. That crazy cat. Oh, I'll tell you. You're cute, but you're a pain in the neck. Look at that face. He's looking, he's thinking, I'm going to get him next. Anyway, That's it. Stay over there. Scratching your ears. You don't have fleas. I checked you for fleas. Okay, let's see. Nice and calm until the meeting starts. Yeah, this is the problem. But that's okay. You can see he's over here. There he is. He's a good cat. You know, he just wants the attention. That's just the way cats are. So anyway, okay. Now, what I was saying before, let me see. My adult male cat acts that way too. So I pull his fur while my hand is in his jaws and claws. I tell you, cats are something else. They can really get you. But I think he's been sleeping, so he'll probably settle down to sleep right now. Now I notice I opened the door. It got cooler in here pretty quickly. Now I don't have any heat in this house. So I guess just from being in here, maybe the computer, I don't know what it is, but it went up to about, it looked like it was 70 degrees in here. So it must be in the 60s in the rest of the house. And I've had a lot of people tell me that when they go on carnivore, they feel cold, but I'm the opposite. I'm always hot. I go outside. I don't usually wear a jacket when it's cool. And it's really difficult when it's hot here, but what can you do? You just sweat a lot. Um, let's see. Nice and calm to me. Okay, my adult cat. How old is your cat? I had my last cat for 12 years. One summer day, he jumped in my patrol truck, and I found him liquefied in the floorboard. Huh. That's must have got in there when it was hot. That's not good. It's interesting because my cats live anywhere between 16 and 21 years. I got Milton. I made a video when my neighbor first gave him to me. I think he was like a month or two old. I've had him since October. So he's getting older and bigger, and eventually he's going to have to get fixed. But for now, I like to let him keep his nuts until he starts to become a problem, and then I'll go ahead and get him fixed so he doesn't squirt up the place and fight all the time. But I like him. Oh, there he goes. He's on the floor stretching, and now he's attacking my broom. Oh, crazy cat. Yeah, he knocked me offline this morning. He didn't knock me offline. Somehow he managed to eliminate the USB connection I had to my microphone interface. So I don't know how he did that. But anyway, okay. So we've had our interesting live. Let's see. Okay. It's been about 2 hours and 17 minutes, which is normal. We usually go a couple of hours or more. We have 34 people. I think we had more last week, but maybe the weather's just too cold for them, or I bored everybody. So we've got a smiley face here. Okay. So hopefully everyone's going to be having a good weekend. I have a lot of things I need to do. Uh-oh. I hear that purring sound. Oh, here he is. He probably wants more food. That's what it is. I have to keep feeding him and stay off of the keyboard. No, stay off of the keyboard. No, 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 no. I'm going to pour water on you if you. No, get away. No. Hey, stop it. You little beast. What? He's a beast. Stop it. You're a beast. No, stop it. Cat will attack. Look at that head. Up. Stop fighting. You silly animal. Look at those teeth. Oh my goodness. Look at those teeth. Look at those teeth. Ah, look at those teeth. You're a little menace. Bite your tail. No, no biting. No, oh, no. Bad kitty. You know what? I know how to stop you. There we go. There he goes. Oh, what a menace. I'll tell you. He is so cute. Okay. All right. Yeah. It's a shame. Oh, Lady and the Cat. Her last cat died at 24 years old. I bet that cat was eating a lot of meat because my cat Garfield lived to 21 and he was pretty healthy until a few months before he dropped dead. I think he had a heart attack. So I told my mom, I said, yeah, he died of a heart attack at 21. I mean, how long can a cat live? I think Someone told me they heard of a cat living 25 years. That's crazy. My cat was terrified. Get no. Oh my goodness. Okay. I use a fly swatter. I do that too. I have a fly swatter to keep him under control. What are you doing? Get away from that. He always wants to drink from the glass of water. He can't reach this water, but he still tries. And then he's broken so many glasses, he pushes them over because, unlike a lot of people, everything I use is glass. I don't use plastic. Oh, no, not again. But you know what? I have just enough water here to teach you a lesson, little guy. You bite me, I'm pouring this on your head. What a crazy cat. I know you want attention. I'm almost done with the live stream. Yeah, don't worry. I will give you the attention that you want. No, don't mess with the keyboard. No, stop it. Ow. Quit that. Okay. You're asking for it. Here it comes. He ran away. He's not stupid. He knows he doesn't want cold water poured on his head. Oh, now he's attacking the broom again. It's funny. Okay. Yeah, see the bags? And then you have to touch them. Once the cats know what they're going to get, then they're not going to fight you. They see the water coming, they see the fly swatter coming, and they will go away. Cats were indoor, outdoors cats. They hunted for themselves and came home to sleep. Yeah, our cat is not allowed outside. I need to toss my keys in through the door to scare him. She doesn't. Yeah, see, mine tries to run out too, but I catch him in the yard. It's just I have to get under the van, and he goes behind the tire, and he's a problem. So what I a lot of times will do, I'll go in the back door of the house and then through the kitchen door. That way, he has no chance to get out. Sometimes when I have to go outside, I'll lure him into one of the rooms and shut the door. Then I'll go outside and that's it. I do let him out occasionally when I can supervise him, but I'm going to get myself another cat harness. My old one, I think, is broken. So I'm going to get a cat harness once he's big enough, and I will take him for a walk like I always did with my cats. And you better not try that again, or you're getting water. Oh, there he goes. Here comes the water. You are a pest. I'm going to get you. I got the water here. Anyway, little fire. Okay. I've used little firecrackers that explode when you toss them. Yeah, those little snap and pops. They're quite effective. I also have a laser level that I can use to entice him. Oh no. Don't attack the stereo. Ugh, he's already attacked my stereo and knocked it on the floor. What? What do you want? Oh boy. Okay, he's gonna tear your live stream shirt. Yeah, he probably would. He walks to me, Hurricane Milton. Yeah, that's where the name came from. That's when he was discovered during the hurricane. And he's back. And he's up. There he goes to attack. Let me move this keyboard. I don't want to get cut off. I'm going to put this over here. You want to attack the monitor? Go ahead, attack it. Go on. Here, attack the monitor. Look. He can't resist. Go get it. Go on. Go on. Now he won't do it. When you don't want him to, he won't do it. Come here, buddy. Come on. There he goes. You want to attack? There you go. Come on. There goes Milton. Go get it. There's the fur ball. It's attack time. Look at that. You are such a cutie. Oh, now he gave up on it. I had to move the keyboard off to the side so he wouldn't knock me offline. He is a funny cat. Oh, now he's going the other way? What are you doing? Uh-oh. What in the world is that cat doing? He just can't stop. He can't resist. Oh no. Now he's going to play with the wire on top. What are you doing? Get off of there, you crazy cat. Come on. Go. Oh boy. Okay. How effective was the molecular sieves when you use them as far as purity? Um, I think 94% was the most I could get. And they have to be regenerated. So you basically just heat them up, but over time they degrade. But yeah, that was about as I think 94. Actually, I think I got to 96% at one time. I'm trying to remember, but I'd have to, it's been a while. Yeah, it's hard to get close to 100% alcohol. I don't think you can. I think you have to use vacuum distillation. Absolutely. I would think a duck would terrify Milton. They're ferocious. Well, actually, that is true. The mama duck he ran up to, he just looked at her and went the other way. Oh no, now he's climbing up on my speakers. Don't do that. Oh no. Ah! Well, did he break my stereo? Oh my goodness. Let me see. Incredible. Oh well. I guess I'm I guess I'm gonna have to go to the dump and see if they have more speakers over there. This is ridiculous. He broke a speaker on one of my speakers on the stereo. Somehow he climbed up on the wall. I don't know what happened. Anyway, okay. How effective? Okay. A duck would terrify. He will grow into a chafee. Yeah, I think he will. Definitely. Does Milton ever attack you when you're sleeping? He will if he had the chance, but he gets thrown out before I fall asleep. Hi, Rick. Jumped in. Heard the ducks are being discussed and a stereo. Well, my cat just broke one of my speakers on the stereo. It's in pieces on the floor. I don't know if I can glue it back together. I have to see if the speaker, I don't think the cone was damaged, but the grill popped off. Oh, that cat. I'm telling you, just how he climbed up the wall and got to the speaker, I don't know. OMG, he is a monster. You know how cats are. Ass whooping tie for cat at my house. Yeah, this guy is a pain in the neck. But anyway, it's probably a message to me that I need to go and get something done today. I I got up, like I said, at 6:30. I went iguana hunting. I didn't find any. I'm gonna try to go again. Maybe now the sun is out, they'll come out and sun themselves. Maybe I'll make a video of that. Milton, get away from that. Now he's playing with the speaker parts. Stop it. All right. I'm gonna have to use the secret weapon. There you go. That got him away from there. Oh, that crazy cat. I'm telling you. Why do I put up with this cat? Well, I like cats, and he's a carnivore like me. He's looking at me like, "What'd you do to me?" And like you said, some of the popular channels, I know, like Louis Rossman channel, he's got a couple of black cats. Black cats are interesting, and of all the cats I've had, they seem to have the most interesting personality. It's just crazy. Once you have broken and wet speaker. Well, no, I didn't throw it on the speaker. I threw it on Milton. So, what would you choose to have, a stereo or this cat? Oh, I like my cat. I can always get another speaker at the dump. It's just a matter of time before somebody throws out their stereo and I get some speakers. And I really only use the stereo. I normally use the one in the living room if I'm gonna listen to music. I use this one just as an auxiliary for my YouTube videos so that I can hear them outside because I'll open the windows and the computer speakers are kind of weak. So I put it on the stereo. And the stereo I have is kind of old. It also has a VCR next to it and it has a turntable now. The webcam is attached to the computer, so I can't show it to you, but I hope eventually I'll be able to have a better camera. I'd like to have a decent camera so I don't look so bad, so the vegans don't say I look sickly, because in person I look a lot better than I do on the camera. And let's see. Yeah, once there was a stereo, yeah. Okay, you should do a long bike ride live stream. I could, but my Wi-Fi doesn't reach that far, and I don't have cell service, so I can't really do a live stream from the bike. If I can find a way, I probably would. My cat knew, and I started using four-letter words firmly to steer clear of me. Yeah, that's true. But my cat, I don't know. They're just so playful. It's crazy. Now he's drinking the water from the floor. Oh, crazy cat. Almost noon feeding time for me. Steak and eggs. Yeah, it's getting close to lunchtime, isn't it? All right. So anyway, it's been about 2.5 hours, which is about how long our live streams usually are. And that's not including the little bit that got wiped out by Mr. Milton. So anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap this up. Now we have 31 people here and we have 32 likes. So that's very, very good. As you can see, I don't have the most subscribers. I have the best subscribers. I have people that take their time out of the day to watch me talk about nothing and, enjoy the time together. This is my hobby. And again, at night when I'm invited on other live streams, I join in on them. So you can see me sometimes during the week. I was on last week Tuesday night with Russ, my friend, on the keto cookout. There were no other live streams last week. I don't know about this week. There may be, but okay. Let's see. All right, let's see. He's getting his water, yeah. Meathead says, Rick, email me. I have webcam for you. Well, good for you. I will do that. If I could have a decent webcam, I'll probably use that. And then we'll set that up. Today there's no Mitch. There's no Mitch today? I figured he would be on this afternoon. I'm sure he was on this morning. He's got plumbers. Okay. Well, that's good. So that means that I'm just going to be working outside today. I want to try to catch Chris's live stream, which is usually at 11. That's Financial Prepper. If you want to check him out, Chris and Stacy, they're a great couple, and they're very serious about. And he's not really a carnivore, but he's mostly carnivore. And if you see what he looks like, his physique, it's impressive. So you know, eating a natural diet, even if you're gardening, is a good thing. I'm very happy that we can work together. And again, you don't have to be a carnivore to be healthy. At least that's what I feel. If you're like me and you choose to be a carnivore, and I think for some people, the carnivore diet is a great reset diet. It's a great elimination diet. If you're stuck on duck food, if you're addicted to this processed crap, I think the carnivore diet is your only option because you can use that to break free of the processed crap. And you may have to be carnivore for 2, 3, maybe 5 years before you finally eliminate the temptation to eat cheap slave food. And it may be difficult. If you live alone like I do, it's easy. But if you have a family, you have friends, you socialize. Now, tomorrow, I'm having a get together with my friends. We're going to be at my friend's house having a barbecue. So around 4 o'clock, I'll be going there. I'll be starting the fire, cooking the food. They like to get together to watch sports. I guess there's some kind of game on. I don't know. I don't watch sports, but they watch the sports. I don't mind. My sport is cooking and eating. And when it comes to eating, I can beat anybody. I bet I could beat Dr. Sean Baker at a steak eating contest. I can eat more meat than anyone. So, you know, but if you have social connections, you may have to do a little fasting or, just try to get them with the carnivore diet. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, thanks, Rick. Bowling is a sport. It is, but it's not a popular one. And the thing is, when it comes to sports, I only like the sports that I can play myself. So there's no reason why I would like football because I'm not going to put my body through that abuse. I've done the tag football before. That's fine, but I think football is a difficult game. Especially when you're older. You don't want to tear yourself up for nothing. But you can go bowling unless you have back trouble or trouble with your wrist. You can't do that. Then you don't do bowling. Maybe you play golf. If a person that's out of shape, like the president, can play golf, anybody could play golf, and that's a sport too. Golf is a legitimate sport, and people make money off of it. Tennis is a sport. Some people like tennis. I don't mind tennis. I've done tennis, badminton, volleyball, and all those things. In fact, I probably play volleyball with the younger guys at the get together. I've done that many times. So if you like to watch sports, that's great. But I think it's just an excuse to eat duck food because every time I've seen people settle down for sports, they eat duck food. And I just don't understand about that. Okay, let's see. The big 96 has no chance with Rick. I think I heard you say pin setters. Is that Dr. Boz Lane's? I don't know about that, but pin setters are Brunswick, and I have the manual actually over there for the Brunswick pin setter. AMFs are called pin spotters. It's basically the same thing. They just put pins on the lane so you don't have to do it by hand. And I have bowling pins all over. You'll always find bowling pins all around my house because bowling is my sport. And this was from Don Carter's bowling center, which doesn't exist anymore. It's now a shopping center. And these are repainted. I think these were AMF pins. I have some Brunswick pins. So when it comes to the pin setters, I'm an AMF. I like AMF more than Brunswick, but I do have two Brunswick pin setters. And when I have the lane set up, I'm going to have one AMF and one Brunswick. So I love bowling. I think it's the best sport of all, but that's just my opinion. Okay, I prepper myself. We'll check them out. Yes, you should. They'll be on pretty soon. I feel too conspicuous bowling lane after throwing the ball, then turning around and seeing everybody facing me. Yeah, you get used to it. Heart attack chicken wings is a popular football food. It should be, because heart attack wings are the best wings. Rick, do you speak a special accent? I speak what they call Midwestern accent because most of the people I know that are from the Midwest sound like I do. You know, Iowa and Minnesota. Minnesota's a little different, but Nebraska, those places. I grew up in Miami, and I grew up before the Latin American and migration. Now we had Cubans here for a very long time. We've had Latin Americans here. I mean, look, my dad is Cuban. Well, so it's but I grew up in the American culture, so I don't have the accent that a lot of people do nowadays, and I don't have the Southern accent. They used to joke you have to go north to go south in Florida. You go over there, and I think it's starting to fade out. The whole Southern thing is not like it used to be, but I don't know if I really speak a special accent. There's a weekly meeting of lanes called the Pin Setters somewhere close to you. Interesting. I didn't know that. Kingpin is an awesome movie. I've never seen it. I've heard about it. Isn't that the one where they were Amish or something? Or I don't remember. I did see the Big Lebowski movie, and that was old. I'm sure that bowling alley's been bulldozed and turned into a shopping center apartment complex by now. But that was an old Brunswick bowling center. I sound like that. That's what I think of when I hear my own voice on a recording. Well, it's some type of Midwest accent. Parts of Kingpin were filmed by me. Well, that's good to know. So anyway, with that being said, now I'm going to end this very soon. And next week I should be here. And again, unless I have a special event, unless I have a very important customer, I always make sure that I am here on Saturday morning. Saturday is usually my day off, but just because it's my day off doesn't mean I'm going to sit in the house all day. I've been working in the house the last couple days because of the rainy and cloudy weather. So I got a lot of work to do outside. I have stuff I have to mulch. I need to get Bob started because I need to move a couple of items with my Bobcat, and that's it. Let's see. Kingpin is hilarious. Go eat yourself some grass-fed cat. Okay. Take it easy, Rick. And the quackers, yes. I'm going to see if the quackers are still there. I don't see them, but they're kind of there. And I'm going to try to get that webcam you're talking about over there because I would like to have something I can move around so you could see. In fact, what I might do is add a webcam to this system and then have like two views. I could switch cameras, and then that way you could see like what's outside. I'm going to try to make this live stream more interesting. Once I get a strong enough computer, I want to run the OBS so I can show you articles. We're going to cover different things. We're going to cover things on the carnivore diet, things on energy, things on the economy, things that we can use. Because I think that if we work together in this space, not only can we improve our health, but we can improve our wealth, and we can reduce our stress, and we can actually bring other people into this group. And I'm not trying to set up some kind of club where people have to pay money to be a member or whatever. I'm just trying to get to the point where we can actually help each other out, and everything from good advice to, resources or whatever, and we can make it happen. Because if enough of us join on the same team, we are going to beat this scam. And we're going to go out with a bang. We're going to have our heart attack and drop dead, and it's going to be in God's hands after that. So anyway, let's see. Tight fit into 38 jeans. Well, there you go. See, 7 months in. When you make progress, it must feel really good. I can wear the same clothes that I wore in college, but what's the advantage of that? I've never been overweight. So, yep, you know, maybe one day I'll invite a bunch of you over to my new home for a bowling party, and we'll see who can have the best score, and who gets the best score gets the biggest steak. I hope that I get to the point where I have a lot of meat available, even if I'm not rich. If I have a lot of meat and I have a great place to live, I consider myself to be rich because my definition of rich is being independent as much as possible, having all the energy and food that you need, and being surrounded by people you can trust. That is what I call rich. It has nothing to do with yachts and cars and whatever. And you know what? I wouldn't want a Lamborghini. You know what my favorite car is? 1969 Dodge Charger. I don't even want the Hemi. I'm happy with my 440. Hemis didn't come with air conditioning. I'll have my 440 4 barrel with AC and hop in my Charger and fire it up and drive around. All these stupid 20 somethings with their rented Lambo and their overpriced condo, they can go stick it because their Lambo may handle better than mine and it'll be faster than mine, but my Charger is going to get more attention because it's not going to be some gray looking piece of crap angled thing that's hugging the ground. It's going to be a bright color, a yellow or orange or metallic blue. Fire up that Charger and has real chrome on it. It doesn't have that cheap plastic like they have now. Great interior, old fashioned gauges, nice sound of the V8, real power. Not the fastest car in the world, not the best handling, not an exotic car, genuine American muscle car. The car that reflects my personality. I'm not built like Sean Baker, but I'm tough and I can make things happen and I'm healthy. And I may be old, but I'm still going and it'll be the same thing with my Charger. So that's it. And if I get to enjoy steak all the time, what more could I ask for? Do I need a private jet? No, I don't need a private jet. I'll have my ducks to fly for me. Why do I need a jet when I have the ultimate flying machines? When is your birthday? It is in June. I won't give the exact date, but I am born about the same as the current president. So it's very easy to figure that out. I always like to have a little mystery in my life. Anyway, let's cut it off. I'm going to move to Chris's live stream and say hi to him. So I will catch you next time. And remember, keep your questions handy. Ask them for me next week. I'll be here. And hopefully, in the near future, I'm going to have better and better equipment and I'll be able to have an even better live stream. And one of these days, I'll have my studio finished and I won't have to do it from my bedroom. So thank you so much for being here. And I'll catch you next time.